Back like we never left. It's Friday. Thank you for staying with us here this afternoon on WCNC Plus Live Impact News. I'm Nick. That's Carlene.
Hi, everyone. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It's not Friday Eve. It's not Hump Day. It is Friday. Friday.
It didn't seem like it ever come, but it's here now.
This week was chugging along. Chugging along.
Chugging.
But we made it. It's Friday. The weekend is here. Look, thank you guys for staying with us all day here on WCNC Plus. It's been my pleasure being here with you guys. You're like family. I know I'm talking to the camera, but it feels like family. So thank you guys for hanging with us. All right, let's get to our top headlines. All right, so first headline that we want to get to. So today the Charlotte community is honoring former CMPD Assistant Chief Vicki Foster. For over 3 decades, she ascended through the ranks and ultimately became Assistant Chief. So happening right now, First Baptist Charlotte is welcoming and holding a service for folks in the community as the city gathers to remember a trailblazer and a public servant, Vicki Foster. She was the highest ranking female officer in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department history when she retired. She passed away on July 25th, surrounded by her family and loved ones. So again, that's a live look at that service that's happening right now. We will get to that service in just moments. We want to go to our next headline. It's a big night in Charlotte, uptown Charlotte to be specific, because the Panthers are back in action. The Panthers' first preseason game is today.
Yeah.
Carlene.
Yeah. It's here.
It's here. It's
Ready
here.
or not.
They're taking on the Browns. So George Sanders starting for the Cleveland Browns at QB. Bryce Young starting the game.
I haven't heard anything about Coach Prime showing up. We're
looking at feeds.
We're trying to look at the feeds, trying to look at Twitter, see if anybody spotted him at Charlotte Douglas.
Yeah, I think he's sneaking in. Is he gonna
be? If he's gonna be here, that's exciting.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And also, I just thought about this. Uptown too. CeeLo and Adrian Crutchfield performing this evening in Uptown at the newly renovated Carolina Theater. That's not the headline, but I'm just thinking Uptown.
There's a lot. It's going to be popping.
It's going to be popping tonight in Uptown, so just want to be on the lookout traffic-wise. That's Danielle Stein there. Her and Nick Carboni have been doing incredible work there.
Danielle will be on the stream 3:30.
3:30, okay. 3:30, she is giving us a preview of tonight's action. It's all going down at Bank of America Stadium. I am going to be tuned in. Carlene's going to be tuned in.
Sure.
We all are going to be tuned in, so I can't wait. All right, last headline. Man, this weather, this rain is sticking around.
I'm tired of it. I'm tired of seeing it. I'm not going to lie. I'm done.
We live in Seattle, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Seattle, North Carolina.
I need some sunshine.
Yeah, I agree.
It's gloomy.
I agree. It's gloomy. The rain has been around pretty much all week. Complete opposite from what we dealt with last week with the extreme heat. Let's check in with meteorologist Majestic Storm for our full forecast.
I really think even by this afternoon, some of us will actually get a little sunshine. Not right now, though. For our lunchtime forecast, this is just not the most beautiful thing. And boy, it'd be one thing if we had this weather for 1 or 2 days, but this has been an abnormally weird start to the month of August with below average temperatures, a whole lot of rain, and a view like this. If you're a little sick and tired of it, I think I have some good news coming your way. Gradually clearing skies for your Friday forecast. For our weekend, mild conditions. I think Saturday will be better than Sunday as more rain showers again move in by the end of our weekend and into early next week. But by next week, I'd say by Wednesday or to Thursday, we're actually going to crank up the heat and humidity with the return of right around 90-degree temperatures. Far from it right now, though, at 69 degrees in Gastonia, at 68 in Shelby, out there towards Lincolnton, 72 degrees, 71 in Charlotte. Notice a little bit of sunshine breaking through right around dinner time or so, so maybe you want to go out for dinner tonight for your Friday night, or you just want to go for a walk after dinner time in your neighborhood and enjoy a little sunshine. I think some of us will actually get that with comfortable temperatures. Satellite and radar here, it is quiet really all across the Carolinas. All of this white, though, is indicating all of those clouds. So we are still really overcast at this point. It's going to take a little while before all of those clouds really start to move through. Let's talk about the rain over the next 5 days because we're not quite done with it, unfortunately. Small chances for us today for the remainder of our afternoon. Can't rule out a little bit of drizzle or mist or a spotty shower. By Saturday, do all the outdoor things. I really suggest it because by Sunday afternoon and evening, another round of rain moves in, and that takes us straight into our Monday. Let's talk about futurecast. This is what radar could look like around 4 o'clock this afternoon. Notice some nice clearing. The less white we see, the more sunshine we get, and also maybe a stray shower or two, but by that point, I think it'd really be up towards the higher elevations. Here's 8 o'clock tonight. That's what I'm talking about. This is really saying that we're seeing mainly clear conditions, and then heading into tomorrow for your Saturday. If you want to wake up, You want to go to the farmer's market. Maybe you want to go for a long bike ride on the Greenway. Absolutely do it. It's going to be comfortable, and hopefully that sunshine sticks around through most of the day on Saturday. Pool day, lake day. Let's plan for Saturday. Sunday, not really looking the best. Much more cloud coverage here, 7 o'clock in the morning. I mean, we're not going to be waking up to washout or anything like that, but I do have a lot of indications showing me that the later half of the day on Sunday, even as soon as Sunday afternoon and into the evening, we do have more rain. Now, this model is just not really doing a good job picking up on it, but do plan accordingly. Let's take you up to the mountains. Upper 60s, low 70-degree temperatures, 68 degrees out there towards Banner Elk. Mainly cloudy skies across the foothills. Still could see a few spotty showers today. Keep that in mind. Upper 70-degree temperatures, some low 80s. We'll see if we make it. We haven't over the last several days here in the Charlotte metro area. 80 degrees in Lincolnton as well. And then as we head out towards the Piedmont, a mix of upper 70s and low 80s. 80 degrees in Lancaster. So 70s and 80s today. I think widespread 80s tomorrow. And then as you can see, setting the tone for the next few days. 90-degree temperatures. I'm looking forward to that. I think we'll actually receive that as we're heading towards the later half of next week. And that's also when our overnight lows will start to drop back into the 70s. It's been pretty nice with those overnight lows into the 60s, but it's only because we just haven't warmed up a whole lot throughout the daytime hours. Take a look at your TV screen. This is your 7-day forecast. Ben, we're looking at a warming trend, but notice we still do have opportunities for scattered showers and storms next week.
Carlene is looking forward to the 90-degree temperatures. I'm not necessarily sure. I'm ready to look ready for the 90-degree temperatures.
But you want sunshine.
I want sun. You can have sunshine without 90-degree temperatures. I got spoiled by this break because it was so hot. Now, if it was like a gradual thing, then I wouldn't complain. But it was just like we snapped into early fall, and I got spoiled.
So you want sunshine.
You can have sunshine.
We all want things. We all want things. You gotta.
I don't think it's an either or situation, Carlin. I think we can have sunshine and it can be reasonably hot outside or warm outside.
But that's not what's gonna be dealt.
No, it's not. Look, I'm okay for Carlene's sake. We have much warmer temperatures on the horizon, and so she can get some.
I want some splish splash.
It's raining outside right now.
That's not the kind of splish splash I'm looking for.
It's raining outside right now. Go splish splash outside right now.
I'm not going to splish splash outside.
I think we're just both delirious.
That's true.
All right. Okay. Let's shift gears for a moment. It was our first headline. So the Charlotte community today is celebrating the life and legacy of former CMPD Assistant Chief Vicki Foster. Her service right there, First Baptist Charlotte, is happening right now live. She passed away on July 25th, surrounded by her family and loved ones. A trailblazer within the department. Again, she is being honored right now. Let's take a listen into the service.
Loved you to death. At this time, I would like to ask all of her cousins to stand. The Fosters, the Johnsons, the Fullers, the Barnes, the Bigelows, etc., 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 etc. As you can see, we have a very large family. Still counting. I want you to bear with me because this task for me is very difficult. She was not only my cousin, but she was my little sister, and she was one of my closest friends. We traveled together, we went to sporting events together, we planned to purchase our retirement home side by side, and Avery had a room, and I you know you had a room in her house, and I was going to build you one in mine too. She even completed some of my thoughts. I would be thinking something, and the next thing I know, she was saying, Vicki was in my wedding. She gave me away, both literally and figuratively. And I was her personal chef and server. And if you'd ever been to her house during any of her events, whether it was Thanksgiving, 4th of July, Christmas, I did all the cooking. And most of the serving, some of the cleaning. And at times I felt like a underpaid short order. You know, she sat there barking requests. You know, I like turkey and chili today. Not too spicy. And don't forget the mushrooms. You know, we had our own real-time comedy show. You know, me complaining and she ignoring me. When she transitioned, I was holding her hand when she took her last breath. Lima was rubbing her leg. Lisa was at her side, both then and during the duration of her illness. Anita was coming back into the room from downstairs. My wife Carla had left a short time before, and she was playing music during her transition. Her soror Shauna had shortly departed. Twyla was on the phone and had been for like 2-3 hours. And Belvy was en route from Chicago, minutes away. So when she passed, she was surrounded by love. My cousin had many roles and relationships during her life, and I'm sure I won't touch upon all of them. When you look out into the crowd, it's clear her love for you was reciprocal with your love for her. Hopefully, I will communicate a little of that love. So what do you say to honor someone that I love so much? What can I say to make her proud? What can I say to make her smile? As I contemplated the right words, it dawned on me that most of them have already been said. Words and memories that each of us will hold very, very dear. Memories that define our relationship with her. Memories that personify her life as a righteous woman, as Lynn was talking. And what do I mean by righteous woman? Not simply a good woman. See, a good woman does things right, while a righteous woman does the right things righteously. See, a good woman is virtuous, while a righteous woman is not only virtuous, but commands virtuous from all around her. A good woman is encouraging, but a righteous woman is inspiring. A good woman makes a man's head spin when she walks into a room. But a righteous woman makes the whole room spin. And Vicky was a room spinner. The room would just spin when she walked in. She was a woman of strong faith, fierce love, and a complex character, as you can see with the pictures that Belvy did, as you can see in the words that people were sharing, how spicy she was, how at times she was stylish, but at times she was conservative. She was a true dichotomy. But the one thing that was consistent was her character. She was a champion, but she was always true to herself. And her love for her friends, family, and her law enforcement family was unwavering. Mark Twain once wrote, "The two most important days in your life are the day that you were born and the day that you find out why." Vicky discovered her why early on. It was a life of service to God, to her family, to her friends, and to the community. Vicky embodied many roles, and I'm not going to talk about them because they've already been talked about. So whether she was acting as a steadfast friend or a resolute caregiver to her father, unbelievable. Vicky remained loyal and consistent. In summary, she was a beautiful contradiction. It is extremely hard to say goodbye to her, but it's easier when I remember that she touched so many of our lives. Vicky made the world a better place, and for that, we all are grateful. Vicky and I used to end our conversations with, "Love you to life." Today I am honored with love you to death.
I'm not used to writing. I'm used to just talking. But today is a little different, so I'm gonna put my glasses on so I can see my words. First of all, I'd just like to say thank you to so many who made it here today. I'm not going to name your name, but know that it is important to me that you were here. But it was important to her that you were here because she loved you and she impacted your lives, and I'm grateful that you saw fit to be here to share with us today. I'd like to acknowledge her class from high school, her entire 1987 high school class came here from Antigua just to be here. My BFF, my bestie, my road dog, my partner in crime, my partner in mischief, my person, my tried and true, my go-to, my ride or die. Ride or die, I'm going to be there with you regardless. Even when you get on my nerves, which she did. When she bossed me around, which she did. When she made me feel like I wasn't adulting enough, which she did. But she also picked me up, pushed me forward, and encouraged me. She applauded for me. It takes a lot for a person to applaud somebody else's success, and she did it often with me. But she stood with me through the good times and the bad. I could always count on her to be there. See, I'm an only child. She was an only child too, but we argued about that because, as you saw, I'm cousins. Yeah, I didn't have that many cousins, so I was truly an only child until I met her, and she became my sister. My sister. Not by blood, but by God and by choice, which made it even more valuable. That's who Vicky is to me. She is my sister. And it wasn't supposed to be like this. We had plans. She couldn't wait to retire. We were going to travel, as if we hadn't already traveled the world and done everything we could do, but we were going to travel more. We were going to see the world. We were going to find men to marry, that part. We were going to do all the things that we hadn't done. It wasn't supposed to be this way. Shortly after her mother passed, she asked me to be her healthcare power of attorney. And I was like, sure, no problem. She was like, no ma'am. She's like, I need you to hear what I'm saying. I am trusting you to speak for me, to have my interests, to do what I ask you to do when I can't do it for myself. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I got you. We in this together. It's me and you. I got this. That was before she started feeling bad. She was going to every ologist there was. Hematologist, rheumatologist, nephrologist, audiologist, ologists I'd never heard of. And I was like, girl, what is it? But she knew something wasn't right. Listen to your body. This was high, that was low, this was positive, that wasn't working. And we looked at each other and we were like, what is happening? And wasn't supposed to be this way. She is my ride or die, and we had plans. Over the last 12 months, we were in and out of ER, sometimes for days, sometimes for weeks. But she always got better, and we always came home. She was a fighter, and we were going to win this because we had plans. We had plans. Roughly a month ago, I drove by to see her. And I walked in and I was like, oh my God, she was bad. She was really bad. And I was like, we're going. I'm calling medic. And she was like, no, I got this. I'm fine. I'll be okay. I was like, listen, get your mind right, get your head right, get your heart right, because you're going. And I'm so glad we did, because she was even sicker than we knew. I thought this time was going to be like every other time. The doctors and the nurses were going to love on her, and truly, the doctors loved on her. And I want to thank Adrian, because they loved on her so many times. But I thought they were going to love on her and fix it. They were going to fix her, and we were going to carry on. We were going because we had plans. 2 weeks ago, this very day, almost at this very hour, she knew I would let her down, and she knew I would follow her wishes, even though they were tearing me apart. She knew I would be there. She knew I would go the distance with her. And she knew I would do my duty as she had done so often. And I did. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Barry was right, we were all there. But it's the hardest thing I've ever done. I love you, Vicky Foster. You are a warrior, you are a queen, you are a giant. You are a gift to this world. You showed up and you showed out, and you always look good doing it. You always look good doing it. You have earned your peaceful rest, my sister. You have earned it. I am going to miss you more than I can ever put into words. But you rest. We're going to take it from here. I'm going to take it from here. I got Pop. I'm going to look after him just like you would. Today is the 14th day of the rest of my life without her in it. I'm devastated. I am grateful, but I am not okay. I love you.
Thank you once kindly for your remarks, and now we will have another selection, and then yours truly will come back with hopefully what will serve as words of comfort. Thank you.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. You're watching live is a service for former CMPD Assistant Chief Vicki Foster. An emotional service there. You heard from a friend, a good friend of hers. Again, I don't want to. I feel like
It
I wouldn't.
got us a little bit.
I feel like I
Listening to
wouldn't
her
do it
speak.
justice to
Yeah.
recap, but again, emotional service there. That service is happening. It's been happening since this afternoon there at First Baptist Charlotte and Uptown Charlotte. We're going to step away from that for just a moment, and we want to stay here at home, but this time we want to go to Huntersville. We have an interesting story regarding a development that is pretty much, and correct me if I'm wrong, Walker Lawson is covering the story. It pretty much abandoned.
Yeah.
And it dates back to 2021.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
plans were submitted back in 2021
Okay.
for this project to come to life. They built it out fully. I mean, you drive through it, it feels like you're driving through a community.
Right.
You would kind of get lost. My photog, when he got there today, was impressed by how big it is. It's 20 buildings, so you
Wow.
have 20 different buildings, 297 units, and the project was built out, and then the developer left. And so the site has been fully vacated for years now. I actually live in Huntersville, and so it's something that people pass by and see. And Caldwell Station it's called the Point at Caldwell Station. And this is a connection of another neighborhood called Caldwell Station.
Okay.
And so this is a large plan that's been in the works for 20 plus years if you go back and look at it. And then there's another development being built beside it that also connects to Caldwell Station. Well, that development has started construction, and people are wondering, well, why is construction starting when there's a full project sitting here vacated? So it led us to start asking questions and starting to look and see what exactly happened to this property.
So the company that is in charge of this development, what are they saying? Have you been able to get in contact with them?
No contact has
Okay.
been made. We've made every effort possible. I reached out to the town. They deferred us, of course, to the developer. We found the developer's website. I tried to fill out a form to contact the developer. I can't even get the form to fill out. I called. It says, "Welcome to Verizon Wireless." They're a company in Greensboro. And then upon further investigating, our sister station, WFMY in Greensboro, has actually done a story on this developer back in March of 2025. There's a community in Burlington that was actually built out and people moved into, but their roads weren't completed. And the city and the town and the state's not responsible for it. So they have roads that are messed up. So they wanted answers. Well, come to find out, according to that HOA, this company hasn't answered 98% of their calls, or seemingly 100% of ours. So it's hard to get answers because there is no response and no way to get in contact with them.
That is interesting. Burlington is a growing community. It sits between Greensboro. It's right before you get to Mebane, but it sits between Greensboro and Raleigh. So a lot of folks, if you live in the Triad, you may live out there. But if you work in Raleigh or Durham or Chapel Hill, you might commute from Burlington because it's an easier commute.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting piece to the story. I have to ask, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I was just
Yeah,
going to say, when you look at a story like this, I think the community has become very confused. And
You were reading my mind. That's the next question. Okay.
I think that there's a lot of confusion, especially being a resident of Huntersville.
Yeah.
We kind of, working in news, we drive around, we see things that catch our eyes, and we are interested in it. And I said, if I'm curious in it, there's got to be other people wondering. And sure enough, someone posted on Facebook, and I happened to reach out to them, and they were willing to talk, and they had a ton of comments on their post. But just a lot of confusion and a lot of concern from neighbors that just see this site sitting there vacated and want answers.
Man, an interesting story there. And when you first came in, we were chatting about the story. We were like, Huntersville?
Yeah.
Huntersville, okay.
Yeah. They love developing in all of these communities, and people, want to know why maybe something else isn't going there, or why someone isn't taking this project over. But it's interesting to see. We've learned some information about the developer in recent months that is still confusing to us as to why we haven't gotten answers, since they have seemingly paid off taxes to the county in the last few months.
Yeah.
So regarding that site. So just a lot of questions from people.
A lot of questions, and I'm pretty sure this is not going to be your last story on
Sure,
this
it will not be the end of
it. Walker, I'm not going to put you on the spot today because I know that your story runs at 5.
I did know that today.
Okay. Well, I should have just left it out. I didn't want to leave it a chance, but you catch Walker's story at 5 o'clock.
Yes,
it'll also be on our digital platforms.
It's a long one.
It's a long one. I read through it. I was like, this is it was good. It's long, but it's worth it because there's a lot of information, a lot of backstory we have to get to.
Absolutely.
Walker doing the job of the people in your hometown, man.
Development, transportation, and hometown.
Walker Lawson, man, thank you for your time, man. Thank you for stopping by. Yeah, interesting story there. Again, catch Walker's story at 5 o'clock, and again on our digital platforms. After the story airs, it will be up. All right, Carlene, where we want to go to next?
Let's check on the weather.
Okay,
It's
let's do that.
Friday.
It is
Everybody wants to know
Friday.
what the weather's going to be like.
We're supposed to see the sun at some point.
That's all I can ask for.
I'm like,
That's all I
man,
want.
can we see the sun? Well, let's check in with meteorologist Majestic Storm for a check of our full forecast.
Well, good Friday afternoon, everyone. I'm WCNC meteorologist Majestic Storm, and are you sick of the gloomy weather? I don't know about you, but I sure am. I'm looking forward to some sunshine and some warmer conditions, and thankfully, I think really by this afternoon, a lot of these clouds will slowly start to move out. It's going to be a slow, gradual clearing, but I think right around dinner time or so, it's going to be enjoyable. As we're looking at our weekend, Saturday seems to be the best day, the day to get outside, get some fresh air, because by Sunday, unfortunately, another round of rain moves in, and it's not just Sunday, but that'll take us into the first part of our work week, and then by the last part of next week, that's when the heat and humidity starts to crank back up, and it starts to feel like summertime again. Now, yesterday, we only topped off at 75 degrees. Today, we're forecasting 80 degrees, so hopefully we can at least hit 80 degrees. I think we have a good chance if that sunshine comes out, and then that is setting us up for a warmer weekend ahead. Now, this is our day planner. You can tell by the later half of our afternoon, a nice mix of sun and clouds. That would be nice, wouldn't it, to actually see some sunshine? Right around 6 o'clock dinner time or so, 79 degrees with some sunshine, dry conditions. Could even be a good evening to go out on a patio and have some dinner. As we're looking at the next 5 days, though, we do have more rain on the way, unfortunately. Small chances still this afternoon. I think we could see a few stray showers still because we still have those low-hanging clouds. A little bit of mist and drizzle, not out of the question either. Saturday, very small chance for a pop-up shower, and then by Sunday and into Monday, buckle up. Here we go again. More soggy weather to kick off our new week. Now, Futurecast, let's get to that. This is what radar could look like as we're heading into that 4 o'clock time frame. So by this point, still a little bit of clouds left over, but gradually clearing out. That gray right there is indicating more clear conditions. The less white we have on Futurecast, the less cloud coverage. So a lot of models are indicating late in the day clearing. Waking up tomorrow morning for Saturday, not only is it going to feel nice, but I'm really hopeful that we'll wake up to some sunshine. Not so much though, if you're going to be out in the mountains, that's where we could see actually a little bit of rain showers and actually more cloud coverage for the first half of the day. Get outside, go take your coffee outside, go work in your garden, whatever it is, soak it up tomorrow. Here's 3 o'clock in the afternoon on your Saturday. Still very enjoyable. I think by this point, even out towards mountain locations, we'll get some sunshine. Now, as we're heading through Sunday, the return of kind of gloomy conditions. More cloud coverage if you're heading off to brunch, if you're going to church. A little bit of rain opportunity early in the morning. And I got to be honest, models are not doing a great job, but I do think by Sunday afternoon, we do have more widespread rain potential. And then especially by Sunday night and into Monday. Let's take you out to the mountains though, because for your Friday forecast, it is going to be cloudy for the most part out there. 70 degrees in Banner Elk, 72 out there towards Boone. Remember, a little bit more sunshine though later on in the day. 79 for Morganton today, nearing 80 degrees. I think we'll hit 80 degrees out there in Gastonia, Charlotte, out there towards Shelby as well. Rock Hill, 80 degrees is your forecasted high today for you and Monroe. So 70s and 80s today. I think tomorrow we'll have widespread 80s, getting even warmer though as we're heading through our Sunday. But remember, that's when we'll also look for the return of some rainy conditions. If you're looking for those 90-degree temperatures, we still have a little ways to go. I don't really think they'll return across across our area until late next week. Thursday seems to be the day, but those overnight lows are going to be dropping down into the 60s and 70s. There's that 7-day forecast for you. Stay close to the WCNC weather team. We will have chances for scattered showers and thunderstorms.
All right, so that is a look at our forecast. Yeah, it'll get better, Carlene. It'll get better.
It'll get better.
It'll get better. Just taking a break.
I just gotta be patient.
Be patient. Just taking a break from the heat. All right, so we want to turn our attention back to First Baptist Charlotte, where the community and family and friends are remembering the life of former CMPD Assistant Chief Vicki Foster. She was the highest-ranking female officer in CMPD history when she retired. She passed away on July 25th, surrounded by her family and loved ones. So let's take a listen into the service.
Let's people, and so Vicki said to me, "Now, Bishop, I'm going to do this, but you gotta know that Chief Puckett has a television, and she watches television, and he watches the news on television, and he heard everything you said, and so she made the meeting happen. She called it. You remember, she had added us in the conference room, and after she made the introduction, she stepped out, and Chief Puckett and I had a conversation that led to more conversation. And before it was over, the man that I was publicly critical of, and the man who couldn't stand my guts was in my fave 5, and we became good friends and even prayed together. That will help better humanity. Last thing, y'all, when I'm out here, I learned this from Vicki, and I hope that we did too. We should live so that our impact lasts longer than our lifetime. We should live so our impact lives longer than our lifetime. Fast forward to 2019, Chief Puckett announced that he would retire, and I said, "Chief, I need to talk to you. I need to ask you a question. Are you thinking about throwing your name in the hat for the next Chief of Police of Charlotte?" And Vicki, in her own inimitable and colorful way, said to me, in no uncertain terms, no. Mr. Acre, she used the word that she would have to retract later. She told me no, but she said, "Bishop, listen, here's where I am right now. I'm going to move on and let somebody else lead. I am the first woman and woman of color in my position," she said, "but I'm using that as the platform that I built to launch someone else into a destiny that may be theirs." And she said to me that I want my accomplishments to outlive me. And boy, did her accomplishments outlive her. I'm finished. I said to you that everyone else had given the eulogy, words of comfort, helping us to understand Vicki and who she was and how she was. But here is my 2 cents. My 2 cents is this, that Vicki, watch this, she loomed larger than her lifetime. And here's what's interesting about the narrative of Deborah, and I'm done. When you read the book of Judges, here's what you will find. At the end of the narrative, Mr. Merriweather, of every judge, it will say they accomplished this and they died. They accomplished this and they died. They accomplished this and they died. But conspicuous to my critical eye, I saw something in it's a reality. Come here, Jesus. Come here, Martha. Help me to close the message. The Bible says that when Martha and Mary's brother Lazarus died, Jesus came back into the city. Lazarus had been dead for 4 days. And it says that Martha meets him at the gate of the city and said, Lord, we sent for you 4 days ago. We know you have the power to heal. We know you have the power to restore. Lord, if you had been here, my brother Lazarus would not have died. And Jesus looked Martha in the eye and says to her, daughter, you got it wrong. I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. Y'all catch this out. He that liveth and believeth shall never die. What you say, Jesus? Anyone who believes in me does not die. They just transition on to the next part, the next phase of their life. And it's a problem. No sickness, no pain, no disease. They'll never die again. Somebody ought to shout yes, Lord, in this room. I'm done. You know, I've said enough. I remember 2015, 2016, I served briefly as the liaison between the faith-based community and the Black Political Caucus, and they had a Christmas party. And at the Christmas party, I walked in and saw the chief. And I saw the chief had on some tight black leather pants. Tight black leather pants, and everything was form-fitted. I saw the presentation back there. I said, yeah, that's Chief. And I said to her, Chief, those pants are pretty tight. And she said to me, Bishop, whatever you got in that cup is pretty dark. She said, now if you don't talk about my pants, I won't tell nobody about your cup. For the record, it was cranberry juice. I wanted us to end on that note. That's a shell. A temporary residence. But now she's going to her home. Imagine, Paul says, it's a building not made by hands, eternal in the heavens. Perhaps you have not made the decision that Vicky made as her cousin shared with us to give her life to Jesus Christ as a personal Lord. You don't get cleaned up to get saved, you get saved to get cleaned up. And today you can make that decision. I want to pray with you, and then I pray a short prayer, and I ask you to repeat that after me. Father, in Jesus' name, thank you for this time to share. Thank you for in the life and the memory of Vicky Foster, her service. Now, today, Father, we thank you that we use this moment to help others to make the decision that Vicky herself made, ensuring eternal life and life in your presence, may the Lord. In Jesus' name. Right where you are, you can pray this prayer if you've never prayed it before. At our church, we pray in concert so that those who prayed it for the first time would not be alone. In the sense of this, Lord Jesus, I thank you for this opportunity to give my life to you. I open my heart to you, and I ask you to come into my life. I give you permission to be my Lord, and I acknowledge you as my Savior. I make one confession for every sin that I've ever committed and every wrong
ever done. And you said in your word, if I confess my sins, you would forgive me and cleanse me from all unrighteousness. Father, I thank you for forgiving me. I thank you for forgiving me. I accept my forgiveness. And thank you for making me clean. In Jesus' name, amen. It is now in the hands with you, Moses.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Right there, you're watching live the memorial service for former CMPD Assistant Chief Vicki Foster. Her memorial service happening at First Baptist Charlotte in Uptown Charlotte. A lot of kind words being said about Ms. Foster. We heard from one of her good close friends earlier, sharing memories and stories. We heard the eulogy just now, but that service is continuing. You see so many folks in the pews as they remember and come to gather to honor and celebrate the life of former CMPD Assistant Chief Vicki Foster. She retired, making history and being a trailblazer within the department. She was the highest ranking female officer in the department's history when she retired. She passed away on July 25th, surrounded by her family and loved ones. So again, you're watching their live funeral for her, honoring her, celebrating her legacy, remembering her. And that is happening there at First Baptist Charlotte in Uptown. All right, let's step away from that. We want to go from this service to another service, another trailblazer in our community, in our Charlotte community, James E. Ferguson II. He was remembered during a memorial service yesterday. He is a trailblazer, as I mentioned. He's a man who wore many hats, a civil rights attorney, civil rights icon. Has done a lot for the community here in Charlotte, not just Charlotte, but across the country, fighting for equality, amongst other things. So yesterday, his memorial service took place. We also heard from Governor Josh Stein at that service, who talked about their friendship, their relationship over the years, and what he meant to the Charlotte community. Let's take a listen into what Governor Stein had to say.
Be here gathered with so many people who revered and loved James Ferguson. Dedicated to justice, education, and service, Fergie was a fierce voice of conscience, a powerful advocate for his clients. Fergie was charismatic, kind, encouraging, and fun. I had the privilege of knowing him my entire life, and in more recent years, he became a good friend and a valued advisor. Julius Chambers first hired him and my father Adam on the same day back in 1967, founding North Carolina's first integrated law firm, a civil rights powerhouse, and I see so many from that firm here today, that made this state greater and people's lives better. Unfortunately, my father couldn't be here today, but I'm honored to read a letter that he wrote about his dear friend, whom he considered to be a brother. I very much wish I were there with you all today to pay tribute to Fergie, but I'm pleased that our son Josh is there representing Jane, me, and the other Steins. You're hearing about Fergie's wonderful legal career, his many accomplishments, his courage, his outstanding character, his kindness, and more. I second all of that. What I offer is a few words about Fergie, the brand new lawyer who immediately demonstrated the characteristics that would make him great. I first met Fergie nearly 60 years ago as I walked into Julius Chambers' law office to begin my legal career. During law school, I interned with Chambers. When I graduated, I was extremely lucky that Chambers was willing to hire me as an assistant. Practicing civil rights law was what I wanted to do more than anything, and by then I knew that Julius was an extraordinary person and lawyer. Just as I was preparing to move to Charlotte with Jane, our 3 young kids, Eric, Gerda, and Joshua, to start my work and embark on an adventure that importantly and positively affected my life and that of my entire family, Chambers told me that another new lawyer, James Ferguson, Fergie, who hailed from Asheville and went to Columbia Law School, would be also joining the law practice. I did not know the first thing about him, so I was most curious to see what this other new lawyer was like. Would I like him? Would he like me? Would we work well together? Would he be accepting of this white boy from D.C.? Chambers' law office at 405 West Trade Street here in Charlotte was bare bones, to say the least. I was shown into a small room with bookshelves containing the full set of federal and Supreme Court reporters and bookcases around the room with a single table in the middle. Fergie was sitting at one end of the table and I was directed to the other. There was one telephone in the middle for us to share. There were no computers, no cell phones, no typewriters, just yellow pads and pencils, with secretaries in the next room to type up what we wrote out by hand. Some called our room the library, others called it just a closet. Fergie immediately welcomed me. His warmth and engaging personality almost completely put my anxieties to rest. He and Barbara and their kids became like family to Jane, our kids, and me. A deep and lasting friendship had begun. I was given an upfront seat to witness the growth of a great lawyer and a remarkable man. You will be told about Fergie's courage, positivity, many accomplishments as a lawyer. I had the privilege of being a front row witness as these characteristics became apparent to the world. From the start, Fergie treated new clients with ease and respect, even before he knew where the courthouse was. He had been born with the great gift of confidence and respect, courage. He found his way as a skillful new lawyer. His clients loved him. He fought hard for them, and in so doing, earned the respect from nearly everyone he encountered. Many had never dealt with a black lawyer before. Many carried racial prejudice in their hearts. Fergie was a remarkable lawyer and a remarkable man. Fergie's children, Jade, Taj, Callie, they have lost a loving father. They, Barbara, and their grandkids were the most precious people in his life. I'm sure that they know that the world has suffered a great loss, and I hope that the incredible impact that Fergie had on people, many he never met, brings them some peace in the difficult days ahead. I loved Fergie. It was a great honor for me to have had him in my life, and I will miss him dearly. With condolences and affection, Adam Stein.
All right, that was Governor Josh Stein yesterday reflecting on the life and there's a relationship, personal connection, his father's connection to civil rights icon, civil rights attorney, James E. Ferguson II. His memorial service was held yesterday here in Charlotte. All right, let's shift gears. We'll stay here at home. So today we are hearing from a family after a 23-year-old visiting Charlotte with friends was killed by a drunk driver. The man responsible pleading guilty to second-degree murder in that case. That man also no stranger to similar incidents, deadly DUIs. The WCNC Charlotte's Jesse Pierre was in court for that sentencing. And Jesse, so you spoke with the family. What did they tell you?
This has been really hard for them, devastating because, they described Ryan, who was only 23 years old, as the perfect child, loving and everything of that nature, whose life was cut short. He came to Charlotte to visit friends and for a trip with friends, and this was supposed to be a fun time, and then they get a call that he was hit and killed by a driver. So yesterday during the hearing, Mache Darby, he was sentenced to up to 20 years in prison. The crash happened in December 2024. He accepted a plea deal in the case, which consolidated all his charges into this second-degree murder charge, which is what he pled guilty to. During the hearing, the prosecution shared that Darby was driving 105 miles per hour. Ryan was hit while he was crossing a crosswalk, and Darby took off. He had some parts of his vehicle that fell over, and I think he was captured not far from where the incident happened, but he did flee the area. And then, more things coming out through court documents and things and records that this is Darby's second deadly DUI. He actually hit and killed somebody back in 2011. Now, in that case, he pled guilty to a lesser charge as well. He was given a suspended sentence, but he didn't do any prison time. And so in court, Ryan's mother spoke out. He had some other friends speak out, but they say that Darby's choice to drink and drive destroyed their family, and this wasn't an accident. He made the choice. He was drinking, and then he got into a car. His grandma actually described it as like having a loaded gun. So just very strong statements from the family, and they feel like there is no amount of punishment, sentencing that could bring Ryan back, or that could actually make a difference, because at the end of the day, this was the second case and they don't feel like he should get out of jail. So like I mentioned, the judge sentenced him between 192 and 243 months, which is about 16 to 20 years. He also needs to do substance abuse treatment and mental health treatment. The judge also, feeling on both sides, and he, told Darby, like, this is an opportunity for you to change your life, do what you need to do to come back and be a different person. Don't allow your life to continue down this path. So tonight at 5 and 6, we'll hear more we will hear from family and friend of Ryan, but this is just a sad story altogether. I think even during court, Darby spoke about losing a child himself, a son, and so he knows what it feels like to lose a child and so forth. And he did apologize for the incident and address the court, address the family, saying that he was sorry and that he was hoping that one day he could be forgiven. Nick?
Yeah, Ryan was just 23 years old, as you mentioned. Jesse, before I let you go, I know you spoke with the family. Are they in the space now to, keep his memory alive or remember him or do anything to bring awareness around this situation?
One thing you just want to see tougher punishment, especially in cases like this where it is a second time that someone is involved in a deadly hit and DUI, and even further a hit and run. They say that they will continue to share Ryan's memories and pictures and so forth, but they're heartbroken. His uncle said, like, he doesn't even know how it works with time. They say time heals all wounds, but he's like, I don't even know, because they're literally heartbroken every day because Ryan was such a good kid and he was really close to his family. In that courtroom, there was probably like 20 family members. The majority of them flew from out of state. Even his friends flew in from California. And so that shows how well loved he was by the people that were around him,
Wow, 20 family members there in court. Well, yeah, Jesse will have, as you heard it, she'll have much more on this story tonight at 5 and 6 o'clock. Jesse, thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you.
All right. Again, Jesse Pierre will be in the 5 and 6 o'clock show, so you will get more of that story there. You can also find her story on our digital platforms when that becomes available. All right. What do you want to go to? I know you have something in preview. Do you want to? Okay. All right. So let's shift to the Chicago area. So the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem held a press conference right before we got on the afternoon stream, again, in the Chicago area today. And so the goal of this press conference was to highlight, quote, the worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens arrested by the Department of Homeland Security. I want to put that in quotes. Again, to highlight, quote, the worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens arrested by the Department of Homeland Security. That's according to, and that's what Noem's office released ahead of this address. So let's take you now there to the Chicago area for that press conference in case you missed it.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. And it's been about 7 months now since President Trump and his administration have been working to make America safe again. As you know, the Department of Homeland Security is tasked with making sure that we have a secure border, which we have overwhelmingly been successful with by President Trump's direction, at making sure we're enforcing our laws in this country, that the rule of law matters, and that it applies equally to everybody. We have had for 3 months in a row 0 illegal aliens entering the United States, which is the first time in this nation's history that we've seen that kind of security at our nation's border. Also, we've been working on getting dangerous criminal illegal aliens out of our country. Murderers, rapists, drug traffickers, human traffickers, going out, arresting them, and removing them from our communities so that our families can be safe again at night. Our top priorities have been these 2 items: securing our borders and arresting dangerous criminals and removing them from our cities and our towns and our states across the country from coast to coast. Since President Trump has taken office, we have arrested hundreds of thousands of these illegal criminals. I'm here today because the elected leaders in this state of Illinois are ignoring the law. In fact, they're being obstructionists when it comes to getting dangerous criminals off of their streets. They're deciding that dangerous criminals that are murderers, rapists, money launderers, have committed assault, that are trafficking children, are more important than the families that live in the communities here. That includes Governor Pritzker, Mayor Johnson, and others who have worked so hard to protect these dangerous criminals. They'd rather be a sanctuary state and continue to put those individuals above American citizens who built this country, who've raised their families here for generations, and just want to be able to walk down the street safely at night and put their kids to bed and live a peaceful life. Today I'm highlighting 4 different examples of individuals that we've recently arrested here out of this office with the good work of ICE and our HSI officers that we've taken off the streets without the help of the governor or the mayor. Our federal officers have had to do this alone without their support, and these dangerous individuals are now no longer victimizing people because of the good work that we do. Hector Bonaparte is a 42-year-old illegal Mexican alien who had previously been convicted of predatory sexual criminal assault against a victim under the age of 13. We have Jarvin Flores Santos, who's a 40-year-old Honduras individual who was arrested back in 2020 the first time for aggravated criminal sexual abuse and attempted criminal sexual abuse of a minor under the age of 13 again. And Waldemar Jabik, a Polish citizen who had been convicted in 2014 for attempted murder and then also aggravated domestic battery. He was convicted of these after he stabbed his own wife and his 19-year-old daughter. It was not the first time that police had been called to his house for domestic disturbance, but he was never held accountable until recently by these federal officers. Dongay Silas, a 33-year-old illegal alien from Micronesia, has had 3 DUI convictions, and as well as convictions of criminal mischief, of wanton endangerment, and driving without a license. These individuals would still be out on our streets today, committing crimes and attacking people and harming them and hurting our children if Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson had their way, because their choice has been routinely over and over and over again to release these criminals back on the streets. The debate over so-called sanctuary policies has real consequences. It has consequences for our law enforcement officers, but also for the families that live here and the businesses that are just trying to provide for their community. Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson are answering that question every single day of who should be our priority, who should be our responsibility, and over again, they're choosing criminals. In just the last 7 months, ICE has issued over 1,664 detainers in Chicago alone. 1,664 detainers we have lodged against violent criminals, and that is a 106% increase over what was issued during the Biden administration. Unfortunately, Chicago and its leadership has only honored 8% of those. That means every other person, when they're released from paying for the consequences of their crimes, back onto our streets without any notification to individuals or to the families that have been victimized by them. By getting those 8% at least off of the street, the brave men and women of ICE are saving American lives. Yesterday we announced that now our ICE officers are facing a 1,000% increase in assaults against them. And you read about the stories and hear what's happening from coast to coast every day in our national media and in our press. But it's in large part due to the pro-sanctuary and the language of elected bureaucrats and politicians that are reckless with their lives and endangering their families. Every public official should talk about and work to protect people, to keep them safe and American people's lives safe. I want you to look at the contraband that's in front of me. We have right in 20 kilograms of fentanyl that's in front of me on this table. That's enough to kill 10 million people. And here out of this office, this was interdicted just days ago here in Illinois. And because these federal officers have been out on the streets picking up criminals and dangerous individuals, we were able to take this 20 kilograms of fentanyl off the streets and save over 10 million lives. They're also keeping these weapons out of the hands of criminals that would use it to rob and assault and to murder individuals in these communities. Unfortunately, all of the politicians that have spoken out against their efforts, their desire appears to be that they would like to have more of this on their streets. More drugs out there for their kids and families to be victimized. More guns out there committing crimes. That is not the work that we do in ICE. The work that we do is to protect people and make sure that we remove these weapons and drugs off of our streets and hold those criminals accountable who would go forward and continue to use that to harm individuals. I just want to ask you for three things today. Number one, I want to ask you to support your law enforcement officers. Have their backs. Every single individual that's out there that is noisy and attacking them right now is having an effect that's ratcheting up the rhetoric and distorting facts and not allowing the facts to get out of the work that they're doing every day and what we've done to help victims get some justice for the harms that was perpetuated in their lives. Those of us that appreciate the work of our law enforcement officers, the fact that we're a country that doesn't pick winners and losers. We apply the law, and if we don't like the law, we should be going to Congress to change it. But that is what these law enforcement officers do, is they continue to uphold the law and make sure it applies equally to everybody. Second thing I'd like to ask you to do is stop putting criminals first. Stop making
How many people have actually done that? What's been the return on investment for taxpayers in that campaign?
Well, actually, the 20 million campaign was to send a message to people that if they were here in this country illegally, that they should go home on their own. If they wait until we arrest them and we have to remove them, they'll never get the chance to come back to the United States. So it wasn't just on the app, it was also encourage them to voluntarily go home. We know thousands and thousands of people have used the app, but we also know that hundreds of thousands of people have left on their own, not utilizing a government program to do so. I've been to, I think, 10 different Central American and South American countries and visited with their presidents, with their foreign ministers, interacted with the Department of State, and over again I'm hearing that hundreds of thousands of their citizens are coming home voluntarily. They've seen the ads, they've seen the messages on social media that if they go home on their own, they'll get the opportunity to come back to the United States the right way. And so most of these countries as well are setting up programs to welcome their individuals home. They have housing loan programs that they're setting up. They're allowing them to have food assistance for several months. Several of the countries I've recently visited with are training individuals and workers to come home because their economy has a need for those individuals. So sending that message has been extremely helpful in making sure that people know that here we're going to enforce our laws and that there's a right way to come to this country. And you're going to be allowed to do that if you voluntarily leave.
Do you have current comprehensive of numbers, specific numbers?
We can get it for you, but each specific country has given it to us along the way. But I would say we believe over 1 million people have gone home on their own.
Since the CBP Home Act?
Since we have started this administration, yes. But we've arrested hundreds of thousands that have gone through our system. Yep.
Secretary, as of July 27th, you've got the contraband displayed here.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about the worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens.
Mm-hmm.
As of the 27th, this is ICE data analyzed by TRAC, 71% of current ICE detainees have no criminal convictions.
No, that's not true.
Of those that do,
Charges and convictions, over 70% of them have pending charges against them or criminal convictions. The others all have final removal orders,
many
which
of
means
those
they're
charges and
eligible to go
criminal
back home.
convictions are for minor crimes, and they're not violent crimes. And I'm just wondering, why are so many other people, besides the worst of the worst, getting swept up in this?
Nobody's getting swept up. We're running targeted enforcement operations across the country and using our case files and our information to know who is a criminal in this country that needs to be removed and who has a final removal order.
Well,
Nothing's
what's wrong
changed.
with the targeted net?
Huh?
What's wrong with that targeted net?
What's wrong with our targeting?
Yeah. Why are so many other people who are just here to work and they're following the law?
Well, they're not following the law if they're here illegally. There's a right way to come to this country.
Immigration
And so,
violators, yes, but they're following criminal laws. You're talking about criminals here.
yes, I'm talking about criminals in these situations, absolutely. But we also have every situation where we have those that have final removal orders need to go home because their due process is over and they have their papers and they're ready to travel. So that has been the priority since the very beginning. Nothing has changed, and over 70% of these individuals that we have gone out and arrested and removed from the country have had those pending charges and criminal convictions against them. That has always been the goal of the president.
What is your policy specifically about identification masks for ICE agents? Are they being told they do not have to identify themselves?
ICE is always wearing something that identifies them, who they are, and what operation they're out on. I would say that they wear masks at times to protect their identities from dangerous situations. The leadership teams, we leave that up to them to discern what's necessary in certain situations. And with the rise in violence that we continue to see against these officers, with that 1,000% increase, it's making sure that they are safe while they do this job and that they get home to their families at night too is incredibly important.
So it's your understanding they are identifying themselves?
Yes,
I've seen some cases of not wearing identification.
I would like to see that because they have identification, they have gone into situations, and when they have been out looking for these dangerous criminals and have been verbally identifying themselves, and if there is a mask required, it's for their safety because of the situation that they're encountering.
One more question.
Yeah.
Secretary, you've mentioned that it's been harder to work with officials in Illinois because of the way the government functions, but you're also on a mission to hire thousands more ICE officers and detain folks who are in Illinois. So how are you doing that, hiring people within the state or people that are willing to work in the state, and where are those folks going?
Yeah, the response has been overwhelming. Part of the big, beautiful bill that President Trump advocated for allocated to us the resources to hire 10,000 new ICE officers. We have had that open for less than a week, and we have over 80,000 applicants for those jobs. So they're from all over the country. Some of them are retired ICE officers that want to come back now that they're going to be allowed to do their jobs. Some retired CBP or other federal officers. And then we also have a huge amount of interest of people who just want to have their backs and work alongside them. So what we're doing then is to get them trained up as soon as possible. We'll be training them through our federal academy, but we're also going to stand up some pilot areas of where people can train closer to their homes. If we have a lot of officers that have signed up and have offers from the federal government, we may do a training here closer to home so they're not away from their families for so long. So that's being worked out as we see where the final offers are coming from.
Do you know how long that training will last? Because normally it was taking about a year, so how would you get those folks on the street? Is it expedited?
Yeah, it'll be within weeks because we're going to give them credit for what they already know. If they're former law enforcement, they already have training and certifications that we will honor and look at. They'll still go through testing, they'll still go through drug testing and physical tests and all of that, but we want to make sure that it's an expedited, where we check the box if they have the experience, then it helps us not keep them stalled out in an academy for weeks at a time.
Secretary, I just wanted to ask how ICE operations have been impeded by sanctuary city policies, if they have, and do you feel like you're still on target to reach the amount of arrests that you would like in those sanctuary areas?
Well, the lack of information sharing is hard. I would say anybody who serves in law enforcement would say they're used to partners. They're used to being able to call up a local law enforcement officer, a sheriff, a highway patrol officer, and say, hey, do you have any information on this individual that is a murderer that's been cited in your city? That's not happening in Illinois. And when we're calling on those most dangerous individuals, when they're being released from your prisons, they're not even letting us know, not honoring our detainers. When we lodge a detainer against someone, it's when you let that person out of jail who's been paying the consequences, let us know so that we can pick them up and get them out of the country. Illinois is not partnering with us on that, which is very, very difficult when we know that those dangerous criminals are going to run free. And many times we go into situations where we don't necessarily have the law enforcement to play a backup role. There are times where we bring more individuals in, more federal officers, because we believe we need to do that for security reasons. So we have great partnerships across the country, over 800 of them, with state and local law enforcement in other states. We wish we had that here. We wish we could build those partnerships. We're going to keep plugging away, and for us, it's about getting dangerous people off the streets. So our target is to get dangerous people off the streets. Last question, Beck.
Can you give us some clarity on what an 18-year-old might do in ICE? Can they be DRO officers? And if so, do you have any concerns about that and how high stress that position is? And on the other end of age limits, why do you think someone in their 40s or 50s can do this job despite the previous age gaps?
I think us opening up the age requirement is wonderful for people to have opportunities that they've always wanted. So many people were forced to retire from law enforcement at a young age because of that arbitrary deadline, and now they'll be able to come back and serve a few more years if they'd like to, provide for their families, and then help on the mission of making America safe again. 18-year-olds can come and sign up and help us with processing and paperwork while they train and they get the experience. They can walk alongside our officers. They will all be as fully trained as any full-time officer before they're put in a situation that might require more of them. So we want everybody to be at the same level of skill set and knowledge when they're out doing an enforcement role out on the job. Anything else?
Yeah, I don't expect you to know the details of every specific case, so I wanted to give you a little context that calls for a broader answer on the question. About 4 months ago, ICE publicized the arrest of 2 men said to be responsible for a mass shooting in Chicago. Your agency named them, and it got a lot of coverage. However, they have still not been charged in that mass shooting. So my question is whether it's people sent to prison in El Salvador or 2 men accused here in Chicago of a mass shooting, is it responsible for ICE to publicly accuse people of violent crimes before they've been charged?
Well, we follow cases and prosecute cases and turn them over for prosecution just like any other law enforcement agency does. So when we sweep up somebody who's committed an act of violence like that and turn it over, that is public information that is out there. And people need to know who is perpetuating these crimes, and we continue building cases then on who they're affiliated with. Is there further dangers? Our investigators are some of the best in the country that are out there making sure that not only is that person now incarcerated, but who were they affiliated with that could be another danger that we need to continue to look at. So
even if they haven't been officially charged?
I would say we follow the exact same process every federal agency does, every state agency does for law enforcement. So we have not changed our methods or how we handle cases or how we even communicate about them than we have since the very beginning, or how the Biden administration did, or the Obama administration. We do it exactly the same. What I wish is you guys would talk about the victims more. How many people were shot in that mass shooting? How many people were victimized? How are their families doing? You all spend so much time talking about the poor justice for these criminals that are harming individuals every single day, and you don't even think twice to go talk to a mom who's now lived for 1.5 years without her daughter. Go talk to somebody and see how they're doing, trying to get their kids to school, not sure if they're safe. So I would encourage you to remember that there's always victims in these situations, and many times you're focusing on the one who made them a victim. Thank you. You guys have a good day.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. That was Secretary Kristi Noem's press conference from earlier in the Chicago area, laying out some recent ICE arrests. All right, let's shift gears. Let's come back home. All right, so it was a big day yesterday for the David and Nicole Tepper Foundation, Classroom Central, backpacks. They had a big giant backpack event, as you'll see here momentarily, basically filling the gap. So many families are in need as students in North Carolina get ready to head back to the classroom. And we also have students in South Carolina already back in the classroom, so it's a big need. Nice backpacks, school supplies. About to make the day for so many families. So let's take you there. We spoke with Nicole Tepper along with other organizers with Classroom Central and other organizations partnering with this backpack event. Let's take a listen in.
Just kind of talk to us about today, getting this together. Obviously, it was a bigger need than usual.
Yeah, no, it definitely was a bigger need when Classroom Central reached out. And, you know, just with everything going on in the world today, we just kind of regrouped and realized that we have to do more. We always want to do more, so it kind of was the right time. And so to be able to make this step and give more backpacks to more kids in need was a no-brainer.
Well, talk about a little bit about like the importance of the items that are in the backpack. Like this is not just kids getting a Panthers backpack. This is everything that needs to start school.
I mean, you guys heard Riley talk about the crayons, right? You know, when you get your new set of crayons when you're in elementary school or in school, you just feel great. But for me, it's the backpack and the essentials, like to have just the notebooks and the pencils, just things that you need, the newness of it. A new backpack, it just brings you confidence. Also, they know somebody cares with a little note in the backpack and that they're not alone during the school year and that, you know, we're there for them to be successful.
How does it feel to see hundreds of people taking time this Thursday morning to do this?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely hit me. It hits me every year, but every year I think of the same thing. Like, these people have jobs and families and kids and probably kids in sports, and it's the summertime, and they're here at the convention center taking their time to make this vision come to life. And I think that goes sometimes unnoticed how important a volunteer is in these situations. So to have everybody here, I mean, just take a look behind us. There's so many people. It means so much to us, and it makes our vision come to life, and it makes it happen.
I'm sure you've been a part of when these actually delivered. What does it mean when you give a backpack to a kid and see the light?
It's the best thing in the world to see their face light up. They're so excited. And then they're ready for school. It gives them that extra boost of confidence. So fun. It's the best part is to see them get the backpack and also become a Panther fan. They're carrying around a Panther backpack, so it's fun to know that they're representing us.
How do you feel when you're here that there is a greater need in the community?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
How do you feel when you hear there is a greater need in the community?
I mean, it's really important. I think this year in particular, there's been a greater need across all entities, whether it's food insecurity, education, everywhere. So meeting in a conference room and talking about it and understanding what's going on in the world, we do it all the time, and we reevaluate and then step up. So, you know, it's a need, and you know, we have to stay on top of it. It's not just today, it's every day, and so.
You can't ignore the fact that there are so many people in so many different companies that come together. You also mentioned, you know, people could be doing other things or at work. What does it mean to see the community really just being neighbors and at the end of the day doing something for the betterment?
Yeah, it goes back to like the world we live in today. You know, there's so many things happening on the negative side, and to bring a community together to do something like this is so positive, and I think we need more of it. I mean, we do a lot, but this is what it should be. I mean, community is very important, and I think what these volunteers will take away today is they're meeting other people and they're networking. So maybe there's a company that has an initiative that they're doing and they're meeting a volunteer here that's going to help them. So it's that domino effect that's really important, and it just brings people together, and that's really special.
Nicole, obviously it's a very busy time of the year for TSE, all the football's getting started, soccer's mid-season. What does it do for you personally to be able to like take a break from all of that and just do something tangible that's just about helping people?
Well, if I could do this all day, every day, that would be my full-time job. Although I love football season and I love soccer season, but there's just something that fuels my soul doing philanthropy and doing stuff like this. I'll never stop doing this, and then maybe once I get older and slow down a little bit, this will be my main gig. But this is my soul. This is what fuels my fire, is giving back to people in the community. And seeing people get together like this is amazing.
And I am with Financial Independence Group in Cornelius, North Carolina.
Absolutely. So what does it mean for you to be here today? Obviously, you take a look around the room, and there's so many people, and they're actually so excited to be here packing the bags. So how do you feel?
I am so excited. This is my 3rd year doing this event. I look forward to it every single year. It's truly incredible to see how much it's grown, as you can see behind me. And the coolest part is that the kids get so much out of it. It's setting them up for success and getting them ready for their school year, which is all that they need right now.
Absolutely. There's so many different organizations you can see, companies. What is the conversation like when you're packing next to maybe someone you've never met, a company or a nonprofit even that you've never heard about? What is that like?
You definitely get introduced to a lot of different companies and nonprofits through this organization. Thankfully, everybody is super kind, really welcoming, really interested in each other and how everyone kind of got to this place. So it's cool to share each other's stories.
Absolutely. And to know how many backpacks are going to be donated later this month I didn't expect that many, but when you do look around, there's so many backpacks to fill.
It's incredible.
What's that like?
It's incredible. The amount that we're able to produce in an entire day is truly remarkable. The scary thing is that the need has grown that much that we do have to pack so many, but it's wonderful to see the community come together and try to help these many kids as much as possible.
And lastly, once people see this air, what are you hoping to take away as far as community, being neighbors, being supportive? Because ultimately, this is going to be the result of our children's future.
Yes.
What do you kind of hope they take away?
My goal when people see this is to hopefully get more involved. Even if you can't do it with your time, there's always small financial.
All right, folks, so there you saw it, just a bit of that backpack packing event with the Tepper Foundation. Tens of thousands of backpacks were actually packed during that event, and they're going to more than 100 schools around our area, which is fantastic, getting kids ready for back to school. Don't forget that our back to school supply drive is actually still underway, so you can learn more about that on WCNC.com. We are collecting until Monday, and while we did have our phone bank earlier this week, and you probably missed that at this point, if you're watching now and thinking, hey, I didn't give, you can still donate online, and we will gladly add that to kind of the pool of money that we've been collecting to help students really have the supplies they need to be successful. Also underway this month, of course, we've got Clear the Shelters, and this is a cause that is very near and dear to my heart, being a volunteer at a local shelter here and a dog foster, and really just an all-around animal lover. So I'm really excited to bring this next segment to you right now on Live Impact News. Right now we have Gaston County Animal Care and Enforcement joining us here in the Live News studio. So thank y'all both for joining us. We have Ariel Hensley and we have Captain Kyle Yancey, both joining us from essentially the animal shelter out there in Gaston County to talk about your Clear the Shelters event that's coming up on Saturday, August 23rd. And also some of your adoptables. And I just can't wait for folks to see these pictures because they're absolutely adorable. Thank you both for joining us. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so let's start off with Clear the Shelters. This is an annual event that we do here at WCNC Charlotte and NBC stations do nationwide, partnering with local rescues and shelters to really try to get the movement going with pet adoptions. And either one of you can speak to this if you want, but this is the time of year, really, when you need the help, right?
Yes, I mean, pretty much any time of the year is the time that we need the help, but we do have a certain push during this time because things do start piling back up. When everybody starts going back to school, we do see a drop in those adoptions. So definitely is a great time to come out if you can.
Yeah, and I mean, Captain Yancey, could you speak on what the shelter situation is looking like right now? I mean, I know we've been hearing from some that are, really, really full and just like constantly at max capacity. How are you all doing over there in Gaston County?
The same as the rest of the nation,
Yeah.
I'm afraid. Every shelter, every rescue is at max capacity, if not over, and they struggle to get those animals pushed along to their new homes. So this is one of the nationwide events that's sponsored by hills, and we want to make sure that we're part of it, that everybody else in our community can come out and find another pet for their loving home.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the fact that obviously this is really big about adoptions, but also it's just great to spread awareness too about the animal shelters and rescues and what they need. Just having done work with local shelters and also just rescues in the area too, I know that, you know, donations are really important. Getting fosters, you know, to step up and help with, you know, a little bit with the overcrowding situation. What do y'all need over there in Gaston County on that front, other than adoptions? And what sort of programs are there for folks who feel like, maybe if I'm not ready to quite adopt, but I still want to help, what can they do?
Yeah, there's some great opportunities in every shelter, but we know in Gaston, if we have volunteers that can come do anything, if they just want to come help, you know, do laundry and wash dishes, or just take a dog for a walk, or take a cat for a walk in a stroller. I mean, any of those things are helpful.
I'm sorry, I'm just picturing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing. And it really helps diminish their stress level. And so when an actual person comes in looking to adopt, they see this animal that is a lot less stressed, is more adoptable, and they can get a good concept of what it's going to be like to have this animal at home.
Yeah, and I mean, you were telling me kind of offline before we started the segment up here, the fact that it does seem like you don't have major barriers to be able to come in and volunteer on that front, that type of volunteer work. So how do folks actually get in the door with that? Do you go online, fill out a form, or you just email someone and say, hey, I feel like I want to help out?
Yeah, we encourage people that if you have spare time, just stop by. You can fill out an interaction form and just understand the rules and regulations. And then they can take the dog for the day and take it to the park, or take it to get a pup cup or anything, just to help reduce that stress. It gets them out for a while, and also helps our staff not have to take that animal out for an extra amount of time. They know that they got a vacation that day, and they were able to enjoy outside time.
Yeah, I mean, you alluded to the fact that there is the element of kennel stress, and we've done stories on that in the past here on WCNC Charlotte, just about how that can take a toll on animals being inside a shelter for a long duration. It's a very unnatural type of living environment. Obviously, the shelters do everything they can to try to make it as hospitable and healthy as possible, but, you know, long term, at a certain point, it just doesn't feel good mentally. But this you know, element of daycation, getting out for a little bit, even a fostering situation, get out for several days, that can make a big difference in how the animals feel and how they present to potential adopters too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. We can also learn a lot of new things about the animals once they have that chance to get out. We've had some people take them to a park where they had access to a lake and found out that these animals loved playing in the water, or found out that they very much did not like the water. Even little things like that adds to what people understand the personality of the animal to be, and can be a great boon in getting them adopted. Also, photos. Photos definitely help me when it comes to that.
I've done actually a daycation program multiple times with the shelter where I volunteer, and I've actually seen in real life the benefits of a daycation program, in that I've taken a dog out once, taken photos, basically gotten some notes. You know, I walked him around the park, saw how he might have interacted far with other dogs, you know, what the reaction was. You know, I kind of do it all safely, because you don't want to just do like face-to-face meetings, like first time, you don't know how the dog's going to react, but, you know, really controlled test environment, if you will, to see how the dog might react if he hears children laughing at the playground or something, and then pass those notes along on social media, and actually have had, in multiple instances, folks come to the shelter that day and were like, I want to foster this dog. It makes a difference.
Definitely, it absolutely does.
So with that, we do want to talk about some of your adoptables, because it sounds like some of these dogs and cat, we have one cat to talk about in particular, oh, so adorable, I can't wait for you to see her, and these are long timers.
Yeah, every single one that I sent you has been there 30 days or plus, and I believe Fluttershy is our longest resident at this point.
Yeah.
And they're all absolutely phenomenal dogs and cat. King we have, who is
And we have a photo.
Yes.
So I'll just, if you ever want to look, there are little graphics that we've made.
Oh my goodness. You can see he's absolutely gorgeous and just the biggest cuddle bug, literally. He is quite large. And he's so loving and so sweet. And a lot of those behaviors that typically put me off of shepherds when it comes to like the mouthiness and stuff, he just doesn't have. But unfortunately, he's been there for so long. And as you can see, he's an absolutely gorgeous dog. Maybe not exactly the kind of thing that somebody would be expecting a shelter to have, but we do have a wide variety of animals available for adoption that will, I promise, be exactly what you're looking for.
I mean, he looks so cute and sweet, and he's 7 years old, and I don't know if I've shared this before, I'm a huge senior softie. I love seniors. I joke that we run a retirement home at our home because we have 2 resident senior dogs, and frequently take on senior foster dogs as well, with either, they're just aged or they have medical conditions, special needs. Not as a rule, we've done some puppies too, but we just find that the personalities, and sometimes they kind of get overlooked for no reason, I feel like, at a shelter.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so sad because a lot of those things that people are looking for in a pet, you find so much more easily in a dog that's grown than you do a puppy.
Yeah.
Puppies are wonderful. They're phenomenal, but they are a lot of work, whereas a more senior dog may be a bit more manageable for most people, and a lot of the times they still have so many good years left on them, which is a big concern, and I understand that, but they have so much love to give in that time. It makes the whole entire experience work. That talking from personal experience.
Yeah. Well, speaking of seniors, we've got another one that you've shared. This is Luna. She's 8 years old. She's a terrier mix. I love her cute photo shoot.
Oh my gosh,
baby.
Luna is a personal favorite of mine. She is, again, just a lot more laid back, very cuddly, very sweet, housebroken. Again, a lot of those things that people are looking for when it comes to dogs. And with her particularly, you mentioned the medical stuff earlier. A lot of people are put off whenever they see anything medical put on, but at least in our facility, we make sure to never adopt out anything that we don't think the average adopter can handle.
Yeah.
So when you see a medical, please don't be put off. Talk to us. We are more than happy to go over what that care might look like. If we didn't think the average person could manage it, we wouldn't have them available. At that point, we would have them available for rescue only or something similar. In her case, the medical is skin related.
Okay.
Her skin issues used to be a lot more difficult to manage, but she's come a long way. It's baths at this point.
Okay.
And she has minor heartworm, which we do send the treatment home for with
that's great.
those adoptions.
Yeah, I mean, because depending on the treatment, because we've had to do the heartworm for some of our pups, because we've actually, now that I think about it, all of ours have actually come, even one that is passed from cancer. He lived to a ripe old age of 10, but they did come with heartworm, and that could be a potentially pricey treatment, but it's great when the shelter is able to kind of handle some of that. Is that like the daily dose? I know, or sorry, the monthly dose, where they kind of get the preventative plus an antibiotic. I think that's what I've seen done at some shelters.
Yes, yeah, and that is the method that we are moving forward with, is that slow kill. You could, of course, always talk to your vet if you want to try a more aggressive treatment, but as you said, that can be a lot more pricey. So we definitely recommend going with that in certain situations.
Okay. Next up, we have Max, and actually, I posted, by the way, some of these photos on my Facebook, Instagram, and also Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky this morning. I got a comment from somebody, a contact of mine and a friend who is in the animal world. She has such a soft spot for Rotties, and I knew she was going to comment on this picture.
I have 3 at home. Black and tans are a favorite.
Yeah.
And I saw Max yesterday, and he was in the play yard. They were doing play groups, and just the most gentle, fun-loving dog. He was just watching all the other dogs and getting in with some fun, but nothing, crazy. He was just really relaxed to be a 2-year-old Rottweiler mix at 60 pounds.
Yeah, and I love the picture of him with Breeze, and we'll get to that in just a second. But he seemingly is very dog friendly.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I mean, I'm not going to stereotype any sort of, breed, but I know that Rotties can be headstrong, in some situations,
Yes.
depending on the dog. Of course, every dog is unique.
Yep.
But this guy looks like he's just a big old lover.
He absolutely is. Him and Breeze both are ones that we have used to be our dog testers because they're so solid when it comes to other dogs, which is of course important when you're doing dog testing, is to know for sure that they're going to react well in more stressful situations, and they both do phenomenally. Him especially, or him and Breeze especially, I don't understand why they've lingered at the shelter for as long as they have. For him, we believe it might be a case of black dog syndrome, which is an unfortunate reality for a lot of the dogs in our shelter. Everybody knows about black cats and how they tend to get stereotyped, but black dogs, or predominantly black dogs, also tend to be overlooked a weirdly large amount of the time. So even things as slight as the appearance of a dog can be a barrier sometimes when it comes to adoptions.
Yeah, and it's such a shame. I mean, I'm reading all the bios here, and I really can't see a reason why any of these babies haven't been adopted yet.
If anybody figures it out, please let me know. I would love to address it head on, but yeah, I'm in the same boat. I can't figure out what they're still doing there.
Well, we have Breeze. So you mentioned Breeze is the other dog tester dog, so she's just got a great personality.
Gosh. Absolutely. I mean, not a single one of them that we've mentioned today is bad with people, but these two especially are phenomenal with dogs as well. And for as long as she's been there, I cannot understand for the life of me what is the holdup when it comes down to it. You want a cuddly, lovable, sweet dog? I've got one for you right there. She is top tier, top tier.
Oh, what a cutie.
I know.
The tongues.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we've been alluding to the magnificent Fluttershy for a few minutes now, so let's go ahead and get to it. Look at this picture.
Oh my
Fluttershy.
Speaking of what long stay may do to an animal, Fluttershy is a very sad case. She's the only one on here who was owner surrendered to us. She came in with a group of other cats that is, unfortunately, her owner was in a rough spot, couldn't continue to take care of them. But we know for a fact that she was super loving and did amazing in her home previously. Her owner cared about her very deeply, and she got along with the other cats extraordinarily well. But that's not the cat that you're going to see when you come to the shelter, and it's super unfortunate for her because we know, well, as much as we can know anything when it comes to these animals, that if she was given a chance to go into a home where she could have that quiet and security and space that she needed, she could show how amazing she is. I mean, she's an absolute stunner, of course, but that personality would shine even brighter than that. And we just don't get to see it in the environment. We try our best, like you said, to make the environment as comfortable for them as possible. But these animals come from a position where they get ripped out of everything they've ever known. And then people come in expecting them to be at their best, and that's just not fair to them. And I understand certain situations preclude certain people from giving them that chance, but for anybody who has the ability to take a chance and give them the space to grow, so many of them would just blossom into the most beautiful, beautiful pets ever.
I've seen that, firsthand in the sense of, the volunteer work that I've done before with dogs, and also some of what I've heard from our shelter staff regarding the cats and how, for example, I've worked with dogs, I would go to the shelter and, walk a dog, and they'd be there for maybe 30 days, 45 days. When you see them in the kennel at first, they're jumping, hyperactive. They might even do the leash biting when you go to take them out for a walk, which is they'll try to grab the leash and tug on it. And you're just like, woo, this dog is just way too much. I just don't understand it. And then you see them if, they're lucky enough to get into a foster, they get, several days to decompress. And then you hear how the foster says that things are going, and they're like, oh, it's a totally different dog. You see the pictures. Here's like the hyperactive dog just like snoozing on a couch now, now that they feel safe. They're not overstimulated by all the barking noises around them. They're getting out and walking multiple times a day. And with the cats, I've heard that they might even suffer a little bit more from the stimuli at a shelter. They like to hide, in a lot of these cases, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for the cats, we do separate them as much as possible from the sounds that the dogs make. But you'd have to imagine, as much as we try, they're still going to hear that. And for them, that's a predator that's in their space and making them unsecure. And cats especially really love to establish those territories, their sense, their space, their area that they can get away. And there's just not that capability in the shelter. We have to keep them clean. We have to remove those scented items. We have to let people come in to see them, to give them the chance of being in a home, of being in a safe space. And that safety, for the most part, just isn't something that we're able to give them. So it is definitely a lot rougher on them a lot of the time.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Clear the Shelters event that's actually coming up. Obviously, people can come in at any point that y'all are open for normal business this month and beyond. But the 23rd, it's that Saturday, like the second to last Saturday of this month, is when y'all are doing your big adoption event. Tell us about that and what can folks expect.
Yes. So we have so many vendors that have already signed up. And so we're trying to make it, bigger and better every single year. We've got a lot of new faces, a lot of the faves that have been there in our years past. And of course, as always, so many of our beautiful animals are ready to go to their forever homes at this point. We are trying to raise money to improve our playgroup equipment, make that experience at the shelter as good as possible we can for them. And we are trying to do that through our raffle table this year. So if you or anybody else knows of anybody who would like to make a donation to that raffle table, all of the proceeds from that will go directly to funding that playgroup equipment for them.
Oh, that's great to hear. Captain Yancey, anything that you want to share either about the event or just maybe a need that people can fill at the shelter right now?
Well, as I said before, I think volunteers are always important. We thrive on that. Volunteers and fosters, it really helps move the animals and give us that information that Ariel spoke of. But also at this event, and even when we're not doing a special, it's such a bargain. If you're ready for another dog or cat in your life, you're going to get one that's spayed and neutered, all the vaccines, microchipped. We're going to give you a go-home bag with all kinds of treats and wonderful things. And at this event, you're just going to come and it's free. We're going to do a short application process. You can even do a pre-application online to be ready so that Ariel and some of her staff can help go ahead and approve that once you get there. And you come in and it's just a wonderful experience. And you know that you're doing your part for your community and you're helping out that animal that really just needs a home to go decompress in and then turn out to be, your lifelong friend.
Yeah. How could you say, characterize how crucial it is to clear the shelters right now compared to maybe in years past? And I'm thinking specifically, when I say years past, maybe pandemic years, because I heard that was kind of I don't want to say a golden age of adoptions, but things are a lot slower nowadays.
It really, I think it probably just in the last 3 years, we've seen the number of adoptions slow and our population grow. Our human population, which brings more animals, and unfortunately in the southeast there's not a lot of spay and neuter laws. So we're getting litter after litter throughout the year because we don't have the very harsh winters. So the animals that are outside, they're reproducing, they're just making more animals. And so right now I can say there's numbers for our shelter. We have capacity for 64 dogs and we're well over that. And we have about 85 cats and we're well over that.
Wow.
And so we're just trying to move them the best way to give them those safe homes that they'll be able to thrive in and that they won't have to come back. So a lot of shelters will just adopt to anyone. We want to make sure that we're getting some information beforehand so that there's not a repeat, that they have to come back and then we have to say that there was a failed adoption. So we work really hard to make sure that they're going out to their forever home right then and there. And a lot of times we also offer a staycation where we say just take the dog home for the night or the long weekend or the cat, and make sure it's gonna hit with everything going on in your lifestyle. And then you can bring it back if it doesn't work. But we hope that given it that time is going to go into a full-on adoption.
Yeah. I would just add this too for folks who might be thinking of trying out a new animal in a home, especially if you've never owned a pet before, to look up the 333 rule.
Yes.
And
love the 333
y'all can
rule.
explain that too, but 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. Yeah, Ariel or Captain.
Either
I mean,
one,
this is important. I think folks should know it too.
It is a personal goal of mine if I could get everybody to understand the 333 rule, because as much as we've discussed how stressful the shelter environment can be on an animal, being removed out of a situation that you've at least somewhat come to understand into a new one is going to be stressful. So we go by the 333 rule. It is a guideline, but what this says is that for the first 3 days, you just want to give your new pet a chance to decompress in the space. Just get used to the fact that things are different now. Get used to smells and sights and sounds and a new routine that is completely foreign to them. And then the next 3 weeks, they're going to start adapting to that routine. They're going to start showing, okay, this is when we do this. This is, oh, my new doggy sibling or kitty sibling that I'm getting to know slowly. Please, I cannot stress the importance of slow introductions, barrier first until everybody shows that they're comfortable, walks with everybody to make sure that they're comfortable where they can't quite get to each other. They can at least see each other, have positive experiences with each other. And then slowly working up to the point where they can actually interact, play, just to set everybody up for the most success possible.
Yeah.
And then at a 3-month mark, that's the time that you're going to start seeing new weird behaviors popping up. A lot of people are really put off by this, but the reason those start showing up at that point in time is because the animal's starting to feel comfortable. They're like, oh, I understand. This is my place now. I can be myself. I can show you who I am.
Yeah.
And then finally settle in and being like, okay, I understand what the rules are. You've told me everything is good now, and we can start, you know, fully 100% accepting that this is my home. This is where I belong.
Well, and you talked about slow intros too, so I'll just reiterate slow introductions. You know, when we have brought foster dogs home previously, we will walk them outside, you know, in an area that's a neutral territory that, so not a yard, because dogs, you know, will think sometimes that their yard is, that's my yard as well, or even if it's a sidewalk that's like right outside of your home, a place where you feel like your dogs don't have territorialism potentials, and just kind of keep them separated, you know, several feet apart. This is how we do it, and just get them sniffing, get the odors, and then they can
rewarding positive interactions like that. Absolutely. Give them those treats, give them the love and affection whenever they show that positive attention towards each other.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm sure y'all provide materials or can explain for folks if they have questions about that. Maddie's Fund is also a great website that you might want to try, and go to Maddie's Fund, and they have like a website where they have videos and explanations on how to, you know, basically set your pet up for the most success when it comes to introducing you know, dogs to cats, dogs to dogs, dogs to kids.
Yes.
Dogs to, I mean, believe it or not, you know, and I know y'all know this, sometimes dogs have a thing about men, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's, you know, I don't know if it's the height thing. Sometimes it's like guys wearing ball caps. It's just the hat, beards. Dogs are weird.
There's definitely a strong possibility that any animal coming in the shelter has had a higher percentage of negative interactions with men, unfortunately. That is unfortunately the society that we are in currently. This does not mean that men cannot have animals or that every single animal that enters into the shelter is automatically going to hate men. It's just a weirdly high percentage of negative interactions that they've had that may need a little bit more of overcoming.
Yeah. Patience always important, and, you know, knowledge, you know, educating yourself on making it the most successful situation. Y'all, did we miss anything?
I will throw in outside training.
Okay.
So a lot of times, what we're getting an animal that came in as a stray, and we absolutely know nothing about it. And a lot of times we'll get, well, what breed is it, or all kinds of random questions that we can't answer. So once you take on the 3-3s, and then you start to learn more about the animal, then go ahead and start integrating some training, some professional training that can help augment some of those behaviors that they really just don't know, they don't understand. So they need that, like you said, the patience, but also that training to go along with it so that they can adjust the best way possible.
Yeah. They are, I guess, trying to figure out what we want from them.
Exactly.
And they don't know until you show them, and preferably in a way that is positive and speaks their language, I guess, if you will, speaking
Yes,
kind of to the
absolutely.
training element that you mentioned. We'll remind folks that on all of my social media platforms, I've got the pictures of King, Luna, Max, Breeze, and Fluttershy. We've got a web story up also with their bios and pictures, information on the Clear the Shelters event in Gaston County, contact information, all the things you need to know. So WCNC.com or WCNC Charlotte mobile app. Anything else, y'all, before we wrap things up?
Come see us.
Yeah.
Yes, come see them.
23rd.
They'd be so happy just to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, if you can't adopt for whatever reason, maybe just think about a volunteer opportunity or donating. All right, thank you so much, Gaston County Animal
Thank
Care
you.
and Enforcement, for joining us here on Live Impact News. Folks, we are going to turn the page now, talk about a different topic here, weather impacts. I know we're enjoying the break from the heat. It's been a bit of a gloomy day, though. Let's see how things will go as we go on into the weekend.
Well, good Friday afternoon, everyone. I'm WCNC meteorologist Majestic Storm, and are you sick of the gloomy weather? I don't know about you, but I sure am. I'm looking forward to some sunshine and some warmer conditions, and thankfully, I think really by this afternoon, a lot of these clouds will slowly start to move out. It's going to be a slow, gradual clearing, but I think right around dinner time or so, it's going to be enjoyable. As we're looking at our weekend, Saturday seems to be the best day, the day to get outside, get some fresh air, because by Sunday, unfortunately, another round of rain moves in, and it's not just Sunday, but that'll take us into the first part of our work week, and then by the last part of next week, that's when the heat and humidity starts to crank back up, and it starts to feel like summertime again. Now, yesterday, we only topped off at 75 degrees. Today, we're forecasting 80 degrees, so hopefully we can at least hit 80 degrees. I think we have a good chance if that sunshine comes out, and then that is setting us up for a warmer weekend ahead. Now, this is our day planner. You can tell by the later half of our afternoon, a nice mix of sun and clouds. That would be nice, wouldn't it, to actually see some sunshine? Right around 6 o'clock dinner time or so, 79 degrees with some sunshine, dry conditions. Could even be a good evening to go out on a patio and have some dinner. As we're looking at the next 5 days, though, we do have more rain on the way, unfortunately. Small chances still this afternoon. I think we could see a few stray showers still, because we still have those low-hanging clouds. A little bit of mist and drizzle, not out of the question either. Saturday, very small chance for a pop-up shower, and then by Sunday and into Monday, buckle up. Here we go again. More soggy weather to kick off our new week. Now, Futurecast, let's get to that. This is what radar could look like as we're heading into that 4 o'clock time frame. So by this point, still a little bit of clouds left over, but gradually clearing out. That gray right there is indicating more clear conditions. The less white we have on Futurecast, the less cloud coverage. So a lot of models are indicating late in the day clearing. Waking up tomorrow morning for Saturday, not only is it going to feel nice, but I'm really hopeful that we'll wake up to some sunshine. Not so much, though, if you're going to be out in the mountains. That's where we could see actually a little bit of rain showers and actually more cloud coverage for the first half of the day. Get outside, go take your coffee outside, go work in your garden, whatever it is. Soak it up tomorrow. Here's 3 o'clock in the afternoon on your Saturday. Still very enjoyable. I think by this point, even out towards mountain locations, we'll get some sunshine. Now, as we're heading through Sunday, the return of kind of gloomy conditions. More cloud coverage if you're heading off to brunch, if you're going to church. A little bit of rain opportunity early in the morning, and I gotta be honest, models are not doing a great job, but I do think by Sunday afternoon, we do have more widespread rain potential, and then especially by Sunday night and into Monday. Let's take you out to the mountains though, because for your Friday forecast, it is going to be cloudy for the most part out there. 70 degrees in Banner Elk, 72 out there towards Boone. Remember, a little bit more sunshine though later on in the day. 79 for Morganton today, nearing 80 degrees. I think we'll hit 80 degrees out there in Gastonia, Charlotte, out there towards Shelby as well. Rock Hill, 80 degrees is your forecasted high today for you and Monroe. So 70s and 80s today. I think tomorrow we'll have widespread 80s, getting even warmer though as we're heading through our Sunday. But remember, that's when we'll also look for the return of some rainy conditions. If you're looking for those 90-degree temperatures, we still have a little ways to go. I don't really think they'll return across our area until late next week. Thursday seems to be the day, but those overnight lows are going to be dropping down into the 60s and 70s. There's that 7-day forecast for you. Stay close to the WCNC weather team. We will have chances for scattered showers and thunderstorms.
All right, so there you have it, folks. Of course, our weather impact team will be keeping us updated on all of the weather information that we need throughout the rest of the day. Let us go ahead and turn the page to sports. Of course, we've been talking a lot about the Panthers lately. Tonight is the first preseason game. We've got the Panthers and the Browns in Uptown here, Bank of America. I've seen, as I've been walking around Uptown, I've seen a lot of Browns fans coming into town. I feel like they travel really well. And so, yeah, I'm seeing there's going to be a pretty good Browns contingency.
There's a lot of Ohio people here.
Yes. I will say when I go to, for example, Hornets games, when they play the Cavs.
Oh, yeah, they show out. Yep.
The Cavs fans come.
Yep.
So I digress. Our Nick Carboni is getting us ready for that game at 7 o'clock tonight at the Bank. Let's go ahead and check in with what storylines we should be following.
News, obviously, it's joint practices. They have a big game coming tomorrow. So let's just start there. A lot of excitement in the city here, Nick.
Yeah, listen, a preseason game, especially the first one here in early August, doesn't really generally have a lot of juice, but this one does, and that is because of the approaches and the availabilities of each team's quarterback. So Bryce Young will start this game. Remember last year, Dave Canales, then a rookie head coach, chose not to put Bryce Young out there until the last of 3 preseason games. And that went for the other starters as well. So by the time they got to week 1 in New Orleans, they just did not look in sync, did not look together. In fact, Young threw an interception on the first play, and they lost 47-10. So a reversal in approach by Dave Canales has Bryce Young going out there. He hopes that he plays 8 to 12 snaps, whether that's in 1 series or 2, we'll see. And then on the other side, Cleveland has 5 quarterbacks. Shedeur Sanders, obviously the hot name right now. He is number 4 on the depth chart, but he will start in the game. That's because Kenny Pickett has a nagging injury. Dylan Gabriel, Sanders' fellow draft classmate, has a nagging injury. Joe Flacco has a nagging injury, which is called being 40 years old. So he will not be out there tomorrow night. I'm almost 40, so I can say that. So it is up to Shedeur Sanders tomorrow night to start for the Browns. And really, this is his first big opportunity, Colin, because he's been taking reps so deep down the depth chart all training camp. This is his first big opportunity to say, you shouldn't have passed on me a handful of times, Cleveland. Everybody else in the league, you shouldn't have passed on me. He's been really humble in the things that he has said about falling down in the draft and not wanting to be a distraction to his teammates, given his family name and who his dad is. He's gone about it the right way so far, and now he's going to get a chance preseason week 1 here in Uptown Charlotte tomorrow night.
Going to look good, going to sound good. I hope they do well out on the field as well. Let's talk about the receiver depth. I've heard a lot of people talk a lot about them, even Ocho Cinco earlier in the week or last week, saying they could be the most talented receiver room in the NFL. And that's saying a lot. We know that in the same division, the Buccaneers, man, they've got quite the receiver room themselves. But, man, these guys, they really could play well together. Some standouts. I know you guys had a one-on-one with Jalen Coker. A lot of folks are looking forward to seeing him. Jimmy Horn, I mean, that guy runs routes like nobody's business. What are you thinking about in terms of, the depth chart, what it looks like, and, kind of how those guys will all work together with Bryce Young?
Yeah, the Ocho Cinco tweet about it being the best receiving core in the NFL is obviously not the case.
Yeah, right.
But I think that it's a group that Panthers fans are excited about and should be excited about relative to what they've had here the last couple of years with Bryce Young as quarterback. I know he's excited about it. So I think you've got different types of receivers, and you kind of broke that down. Tyrone McMillan, big, tall, smooth athlete, big, wide catch radius. Behind him, you've got Xavier Legette, who had 8 drops last year, but he was open to get those drops. That's the positive side of that. Now in year 2, he's got to clean some of that up. But he is a big-bodied, great runner with the football. He can get you a lot of yards after catch, and so can McMillan. You've got Adam Thielen returning as really the best receiver on this roster the last 2 seasons. He's still got a lot of juice and a lot of legs left in his career. At least he showed so last year and was mostly healthy last season. And then beyond that, Jalen Coker, undrafted free agent, put up 400 or 500 yards and 2 touchdowns last year. And physically, as you mentioned, Danielle Stein got a chance to talk to him yesterday. He looks the part. He is really starting to develop into an NFL caliber receiver body, and he can do a lot of different things. He can play in the slot. He can go get a 50-50 ball. Hunter Renfrow was a great story the first week and a half of camp. Haven't seen him since then. He's been out with a hamstring tweak. I'm not sure rainy days at practice and this first preseason game are the time to roll him back out. We'll see if he can kind of come back and recapture some of that momentum he had. And the forgotten man for a lot of people is David Moore, veteran wide receiver who came in last year, familiar with Dave Canales and his system, and made big catches more often than not for Bryce Young in key situations, third downs, big drives. He was able to rely on David Moore, and I don't think you can shake your head at that. You've got Jimmy Horn Jr., who you mentioned, they drafted in the 6th round, but he's got a lot of exciting tools. He's fast. He can get to the spot quicker than a lot of defensive backs. Now, can he put it together? I think he's going to make the roster regardless because of that investment in him and because of his potential. I'm not sure he'll be an impact player right away this season, but I'm very interested to see what he looks like in the preseason because he's going to get a lot of chances out there with Andy Dalton and then third string quarterback Jack Plummer. One name that we've started to talk about the last 4 or 5 days, Colin, really since FanFest last Saturday, is Bryson Tremaine. He's a tall wide receiver. Some say he kind of looks like a tight end type body.
Yeah.
Number 87 out there. He's made some really good catches dating back to FanFest and then to close yesterday's practice right in the end zone against the Browns defense. And Dave Canales told us he absolutely has a chance to make the team because he also plays special teams. And that's big for Dave Canales and most football coaches. The more you can do. If you can play special teams and provide a role there, doesn't necessarily have to be a returner, although some of them are, then that increases your chance to make the team, especially if you're in the back end of that receiver room.
Okay. I feel like there's been so much talk about the offense. I know we've spent some time with the defense, with defenders, with guys who will be out there. I know J.C. Horn was off the field in street clothes because of a accident. I know he tweeted yesterday he was all good. So, if you would update us there. And I think the big question that a lot of folks are going to have here, the linebacking core, right? The defensive line seems like they've got a lot of good guys that could push those offensive linemen around. And obviously the defensive backfield speaks for itself with J.C. Horn. But, what are your, I wouldn't say concerns, but the questions going into preseason and then into the season, especially for that core?
Yeah, I think the second starting safety is a big question. And is the linebacker room, are the starters enough for what the Panthers want to see? Yeah. So I think after a few preseason games, the Panthers will tell us with their actions or inactions. Okay. Are they going out and getting another safety? Are they going out and getting another linebacker? Starting with safety, they really let the entire safety room from last season walk this offseason. They brought in Trayvon Merrick, big physical safety from the Las Vegas Raiders, who is on the upswing of his career. He looks the part. I don't think there's any concerns there. It's next to him. How are they going to fill that role? But I think they probably like where they are at safety more than they like where they are at linebacker, because you've got some young players who other veteran players talk about like they're equal, like they are starting caliber.
Yeah.
Lathan Ransom, he's kind of the hot name this week because he's made a lot of plays. Danielle Stein also interviewed him.
Yeah.
4th round pick out of Ohio State, plays with that big hair on fire.
Yeah.
Made some big hits in FanFest. Maybe one of them crossed the line a little, but he's physical. And obviously they made the investment in him with the draft pick. But then you've also got Damani Richardson, who is not a big name, not a first-round pick, but somebody that they found kind of uncovered last year and made an impact when he was out on the field, got an interception. So he's had every opportunity to show himself. They've got Nick Scott back as well. And then at the nickel corner position, a position that nobody really talks about but is so important because you're relied upon in the coverage game with all these spread formations and 4 or 5 wide receivers at a time, but you also have to be willing and able to step up in the run game. And Shaw Smith-Wade is the player that showed himself to be able to do that last year. Had a big interception of Baker Mayfield at home. Unfortunately, they lost that game.
Right.
But has good play on tape for this coaching staff, and he is going to be a player that we don't really talk about a lot that is going to actually be a very big part of this defense. So that's kind of the secondary. Move to the linebacking room. Lose Josie Jewell right at the beginning of training camp. Still working through concussion protocol. Scary stuff for him. I would put the odds on him not coming back and not coming back to the Panthers. So that leaves you with Christian Roseboom, who had a similar situation happen to him in L.A. with the Rams, where he had to step up in an unexpected starting role, and he racked up 127 tackles.
Right.
Now, the amount of tackles, it's a positive. It's not the end-all, be-all.
Right.
I mean, it's like, batting average as a stat in baseball now, or ERA, I should say, wins losses for pitchers.
Okay.
It doesn't tell the whole story, but he got a lot of tackles, so that's at least a good thing.
Right.
And similarly, second-year linebacker Trevin Wallace out of Kentucky last year, he was not expected to start. He was not expected to be the guy wearing the green dot, having the communication with the defensive coordinator, then relaying it to his teammates. But he had to. So, you've got guys that have recently had to step up in situations because of injury at linebacker, and now they are again. Will GM Dan Morgan, former Pro Bowl linebacker, think that's enough in the next couple of weeks? I think that's what we're about to find out. They did sign Chris Barnes, who's kind of a depth piece last week, but has a lot of experience, and that's what they're looking for. I'm not sure they'll be able to get a top-line starter. I don't think they're trading for the one in Dallas,
right?
But that situation may resolve itself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Brad and I always talk about Shaq Thompson and then Frankie Louvu.
They missed Frankie Louvu a lot. That would solve for X,
Frankie
right?
Louvu.
If Frankie Louvu was still here, he was the one that got away in their minds in free agency 2 years ago.
Yeah, he plays with his hair on fire too.
Oh yeah.
All right. What else am I missing, man? I set the scene for us on Saturday. As you said, starters are going to play for a little bit of time. It'll be interesting to see how Bryce Young plays. I know a lot of folks have been talking about that, how the defense plays. I know I did bring up J.C. Horn. I don't expect he's going to be suited
He won't
up.
play.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. So I think the biggest thing we're going to be watching because of that reversal in approach to play the starters and Bryce Young right away is how everything all looks out on the field together and keeping Bryce Young clean because it's live.
Yep.
There is contact on the quarterback.
Yep.
So 8 to 12 plays is what Canales is looking for. Could be one series, could be two. But how does Bryce Young operate? How does he spread the ball around to some of these new weapons he has? How do they run the ball with Chuba Hubbard and now Rico Dowdle, 2 1,000-yard backs from last year?
Mm-hmm.
And remember, this offensive line, even beyond the 5 starters, even the depth of the offensive line, all returns from last year. So hopefully that means keeping Bryce Young clean tomorrow night. But yeah, I mean, these 2 weeks, Dave Canales is going to give Bryce Young a lot of work.
Yeah.
A joint practice this week, a preseason game this week.
Yeah.
A joint practice next week down in Houston, a preseason game next week. That is a lot more work and a lot more ability to get a feel with everybody than I think 12 attempts last year in the 3rd preseason game.
Yeah,
so I think that's probably going to help this team hopefully get off to a better start.
Yeah. obviously keep our fingers crossed. Just excited for football to be back almost, right, in that preseason mode. Anything else from training camp that you want to update us on? I'm obviously looking forward to all the receivers, the defense playing well as well, but anything
tight end's an interesting position. Tommy Tremble had back surgery, later in the offseason than you'd probably like. They finally decided that was the best course of action, so that was in May. He's been rehabbing. I mean, he's doing a lot more than you might expect somebody to do after having May back surgery, but he has not been in any drills, even individual drills or anything yet, so he's not available for a while. In the meantime, you've got second-year tight end Jatavian Sanders, who they drafted from Texas last year, had some flashes, had a scary neck and head injury towards the end of last season and never really picked up where he left off. He looks really good. He's slimmed down. He is fast for a tight end. He's kind of that move tight end mold. Sure, he'll have to block sometimes and be in line, but they want him to be a tight end that can, catch passes, move the chains. They also drafted Mitchell Evans, tight end from Notre Dame this offseason, who may be more of a mix between the two. I've seen him get a lot of reps. Tommy Tremble's out, so that helps. You get with the twos, but he's had a lot of reps. And then James Mitchell, kind of a journeyman who was behind an all-pro tight end in Detroit. He's in camp, and he's made some really nice catches. So that will be a very interesting position to track these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, cannot wait. As you kind of said, looking forward to seeing Lathan Ransom play. Hopefully, he'll bring the boom in some of these games, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, the defensive line, too. I mean, I failed to mention that. It may be the most improved group on paper for the Panthers. You get 2 rookie All-SEC edge rushers in Nick Scorton and Princely Uman-Mielen. They're going to get their opportunities against Shedeur Sanders tomorrow night. It is Shedeur Sanders against the top line Panthers defense, at least for the first series or two. And Derek Brown, I believe we'll see out there. I'm not sure that's been confirmed yet, and they may still take it easy with him. But Bobby Brown, who they brought in, Ashawn Robinson, who's back, they really like what they've done with this defensive front. Pat Jones coming in, DJ Wanham returning from last year. They let Clowney walk in free agency, obviously.
Right.
I don't believe he's still signed with the team. But let's see how this defensive front looks like. We're all eyes on Bryce Young, but when he comes off the field, you got to keep an eye on the defensive line starters.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people want to see both these quarterbacks do well, right? And just not too well on the Cleveland side.
And listen, it's preseason, but you don't want to see Shedeur Sanders come in,
turn it up,
the 4th string quarterback in a bad Browns quarterback room, carve up your number 1 defense.
No,
for
you
sure.
do not.
But it could be a chance for this defense to get off on a good foot and get some confidence too.
Yeah.
All right, folks, and we did want to let you know, please stick around here on Live Impact News. We have our Danielle Stein, who will be joining us at 3:30 here on the stream to give us even more of an idea of how things are shaping up in Uptown. She'll give us a live report from there over at the bank as this preseason game is getting underway in just a couple of hours. Let's turn over now to a WCNC Charlotte investigation. So we have our Nate Morabito, who's been on a brand new report here. Look at some mail thefts that have been going on in the Ballantyne area, and this is something that has caught the eye, it sounds like, of federal investigators.
Yeah, this actually came to our attention from a Nextdoor post. Some people were complaining about the Ballantyne post office, and when it came to my attention, I thought, that's interesting, but let's figure out what's really happening there. And so I started analyzing CMPD data and found that there had been more check theft reports at that post office than any other post office in Charlotte. And I thought, that seems really unusual. Like, why is this a coincidence? Is this a conspiracy? What's going on there? So we essentially found more than 24 reports tied to this in less than a year. And that eventually brought us to the home of a woman named Kathy Dorff. Let's take a listen.
I was shocked and I was angry, and you just don't think these things are going to happen. It's that old cliche, it's not going to happen to me. I thought I was being safe. I was going to the post office. I was following what I thought were the right steps, and so that was really upsetting. And then of course I thought, oh my God, now they have our account information, and that is scary. And so I went to the bank right away. They shut down the account. But one of the comments they made was, oh, this happens all the time. You're the 3rd person this week. And that really surprised me, because I thought it was much more random than that. And the article that I had read is what prevented me from putting my mail in our mailbox. I thought, I'll go to the post office because that's safer, and that's where I'll put my mail. And then that's where it happened, obviously. So very luckily, they had done nothing, because the check was deposited May 12th. We didn't know until our accountant emailed me the end of June. So they could have done a lot of damage, and thank goodness they didn't.
So I don't know about you, Vanessa, but very rarely do I write a check.
Yeah.
Occasionally I have to for something. And same with Kathy for the most part. She was paying her tax accountant. It was a more than $3,000 check in May that she put in the mail and sent it off. She physically walked into the Ballantyne post office because, as you heard, she thought it was safer. Well, sometime after she deposited her mail, someone took the check, they washed the check, which is using some chemicals in a wash bin to take some of the ink off, and changed some of the information on the check to change who it was who it was made out to. And then they deposited this money. So that's $3,000 that thankfully her bank made right for her. But as it stands, this case is inactive within CMPD. They've exhausted all leads, and that's really, in all honesty, most of these cases are considered inactive. They're thus far they've had trouble figuring out who's responsible. And here's what really gets me about this whole situation. In 2023, the federal government, in a grand jury, busted a worker at the Ballantyne post office for stealing business checks and then selling them.
Wow.
This all has happened since then.
Yes.
So they arrested someone, an employee, and now there's more and more thefts happening there. And these victims range from a 93-year-old to a church to several businesses who think they're doing the right thing, but their checks are getting stolen. And I think the fear is that these cases are not going to get solved. So we interviewed the U.S. Attorney for the Western District, Russ Ferguson, and we talked with him about this problem because it really is a massive problem in this region, mail theft. Here's what he told us.
It's a huge issue. The amount of people stealing checks out of the mail is alarming. And we're seeing we're seeing crime from that in many, many different ways. People are robbing postal carriers to get their keys to open the mailboxes. People are stealing mail, and people are taking checks out of the mail, washing the numbers off, and using those checks to defraud people out of money.
What is your level of involvement in trying to investigate and prosecute, hold people accountable for it?
We're very involved in holding people accountable, and you're exactly right. These cases started with people stealing checks, robbing mail carriers. Some of our recent cases have been people who actually work for the Postal Service and get jobs at the Postal Service to engage in that crime, and that's extremely alarming to us because you can do everything they tell you to do. Take your check into the post office, but if you're handing it to a criminal on the other side of the desk, it's not going to work. So we've been very focused on prosecuting those cases and holding those people accountable and letting people know that we're going to catch you. If you get a job at the post office to engage in crime instead of to help people, we're going to catch you.
And even before we interviewed the U.S. Attorney, we had reached out to the Postal Service and said, what's going on here? You know, can you give us an idea? They directed us to the Office of Inspector General. And the Office of Inspector General told us that they are aware of this issue at this post office and they are investigating it. We know there have been several cases in our region over the last year and a half tied to mail theft, several of them postal employees. And I just want to urge people to take a few precautions. Nothing is foolproof, but the more barriers you can kind of put up, the better. The recommendation is to bring your mail into the post office if you're going to mail it, if there's a check inside. Postal Service recommends that you deposit your mail at the last drop-off of the day. So there's only one time where they're going to come through and pick up your mail. Also, if you're going to write a check, this is, again, not 100% guaranteed, but if you use a gel pen, that ink has over time been harder to get out of a check, so that whatever you write, whoever you address it to, the hope is that they wouldn't be able to change it. And thank goodness for Kathy's case, they didn't change the dollar amount, because they really could have done that too. They didn't. They kept her signature, they changed everything else. And in that case, it was deposited in a specific bank, because the check said it has to only be deposited electronically to one bank. So her bank was able to contact the other bank to, just verify it and at least get her money. But they have yet to figure out who did this, which is kind of hard for me to figure out because somebody deposited this money. You would think it'd be easier to track down, but these are very kind of intense kind of investigations that take a lot of work and sometimes a lot of time. And the U.S. Attorney's Office says it's a priority for them. I'm hopeful that no one else is going to fall victim, but based on recent history there, the alarm should be off for people that something is happening there at the Ballantyne Post Office.
Yeah, I guess I was going to ask, I mean, it's hard to say don't go to a certain post office, but...
It is hard to say that, number one. And no one is saying that. No one is urging people not to do it. But the mail has to go from that post office to somewhere else here in Charlotte, too.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't really know where this is happening. But this is what the beauty of technology is. There was a recent oversight hearing within Congress about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, where the U.S. Postal Inspector and the USPS OIG talked about this new technology they're using too, to try to figure out where in the system these crimes are happening so that they can target that. And they've even talked about, trying to limit, backpacks on the floor of a sorting facility potentially, just to limit any way to take mail if it's happening internally. That is the concern, though, is that maybe in the past that's what was happening. U.S. Attorney says there was a person who worked there, who was taking the mail, and then who was selling it to other people. It was a big conspiracy scheme to try and take money from people, and it would have been successful had they not busted that case. The hard part here is we don't know how many other cases there are even out there, and these are just the people that report these crimes. That's one more thing the OIG will say as well. There's a hotline on their website where people can file complaints. This is the USPS OIG, Office of Inspector General. The sooner you file a complaint, the more likely that it could be solved. Sure, file a complaint with police, but also make sure the Postal Service knows as well, because I really feel bad for these people who are in a position where they're doing everything they're told to do, and then they're still being victimized. And oftentimes you hear, well, there's not much we can do to solve this case.
Yeah.
And it almost becomes common, like, oh yeah, this is happening all the time. Okay, well, that's not really acceptable. What can we do to make this not the norm?
Yeah. My mind's kind of blown a bit.
It's so weird that it's one location with the most of these things happening. We're going to air a story tonight at 6 on this. You'll see our full report then. But it certainly is odd, to say the least.
It's odd and definitely not linking them. I'm just more curious now that you've brought up the prior case. I just want to learn more about that too, just in general.
Yeah, I mean, apparently there are people who get jobs with the post office for this reason. That's what the U.S. Attorney told us. Now, the Officer of Inspector General will say the majority of employees at the post office are great. They would never think about jeopardizing their career to steal mail, right? That's in most professions. That's the way it is, right? But you get a few bad apples that spoil the bunch, and that's what Kathy says. I feel bad. They've tainted this location. There are some good people that work there, and now the reputation is one that I can't trust this place. And I think that's a really hard thing to reverse, especially when the Postal Service has had tons of funding issues, right? There's been a lot of conversation about that. And Congresswoman Virginia Foxx is also on the committee that was questioning the Postal Service a couple weeks ago from North Carolina. And she was asking, what can we do, what more can we do, to make sure the mail is delivered safely without costing more money? So you have this issue of it's becoming more and more prevalent, it feels at least, but also an effort to tighten the belt of government spending. And so how do you do both at the same time? I think is the question that some people might ask.
Yeah, really interesting. Looking forward to seeing more of your piece. You said 6 o'clock, right?
6 o'clock tonight, yep.
All right. Nate Mordio, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Impact News. Folks, we are turning now to an update from Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. This is from just a little bit earlier today, looking at immigration arrests and specifically highlighting some arrests in Illinois. Let's listen in right now.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. And it's been about 7 months now since President Trump and his administration have been working to make America safe again. As you know, the Department of Homeland Security is tasked with making sure that we have a secure border, which we have overwhelmingly been successful with by President Trump's direction, at making sure we're enforcing our laws in this country, that the rule of law matters, and that it applies equally to everybody. We have had for 3 months in a row 0 illegal aliens entering the United States, which is the first time in this nation's history that we've seen that kind of security at our nation's border. Also, we've been working on getting dangerous, criminal, illegal aliens out of our country. Murderers, rapists, drug traffickers, human traffickers, going out, arresting them, and removing them from our communities so that our families can be safe again at night. Our top priorities have been these 2 items: securing our borders and arresting dangerous criminals and removing them from our cities and our towns and our states across the country from coast to coast. Since President Trump has taken office, we have arrested hundreds of thousands of these illegal criminals. I'm here today because the elected leaders in this state of Illinois are ignoring the law. In fact, they're being obstructionists when it comes to getting dangerous criminals off of their streets. They're deciding that dangerous criminals that are murderers, rapists, money launderers, have committed assault, that are trafficking children, are more important than the families that live in the communities here. That includes Governor Pritzker, Mayor Johnson, and others who have worked so hard to protect these dangerous criminals. They'd rather be a sanctuary state and continue to put those individuals above American citizens who built this country, who've raised their families here for generations, and just want to be able to walk down the street safely at night and put their kids to bed and live a peaceful life. Today I'm highlighting 4 different examples of individuals that we've recently arrested here out of this office with the good work of ICE and our HSI officers that we've taken off the streets without the help of the governor or the mayor. Our federal officers have had to do this alone without their support, and these dangerous individuals are now no longer victimizing people because of the good work that we do. Hector Bonaparte is a 42-year-old illegal Mexican alien who had previously been convicted of predatory sexual criminal assault against a victim under the age of 13. We have Jarvin Flores Santos, who's a 40-year-old Honduras individual who was arrested back in 2020 the first time for aggravated criminal sexual abuse and attempted criminal sexual abuse of a minor under the age of 13 again. And Waldemar Jabik, a Polish citizen who had been convicted in 2014 for attempted murder and then also aggravated domestic battery. He was convicted of these after he stabbed his own wife and his 19-year-old daughter. It was not the first time that police had been called to his house for domestic disturbance, but he was never held accountable until recently by these federal officers. Dongay Silas, a 33-year-old illegal alien from Micronesia, has had 3 DUI convictions, and as well as convictions of criminal mischief, of wanton endangerment, and driving without a license. These individuals would still be out on our streets today, committing crimes and attacking people and harming them and hurting our children if Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson had their way, because their choice has been routinely over and over and over again to release these criminals back on the streets. The debate over so-called sanctuary policies has real consequences. It has consequences for our law enforcement officers, but also for the families that live here and the businesses that are just trying to provide for their community. Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson are answering that question every single day of who should be our priority, who should be our responsibility, and over again, they're choosing criminals. In just the last 7 months, ICE has issued over 1,664 detainers in Chicago alone. 1,664 detainers we have lodged against violent criminals, and that is a 106% increase over what was issued during the Biden administration. Unfortunately, Chicago and its leadership has only honored 8% of those. Every other person, when they're released from paying for the consequences of their crimes, back onto our streets without any notification to individuals or to the families that have been victimized by them. By getting those 8% at least off of the street, the brave men and women of ICE are saving American lives. Yesterday we announced that Now our ICE officers are facing a 1,000% increase in assaults against them. And you read about the stories and hear what's happening from coast to coast every day in our national media and in our press. But it's in large part due to the pro-sanctuary state and cities policies and the language of elected bureaucrats and politicians that are reckless with their lives and endangering their families. Every public official should talk about and work to protect people, to keep them safe and American people's lives safe. I want you to look at the contraband that's in front of me. We have right in 20 kilograms of fentanyl that's in front of me on this table. That's enough to kill 10 million people. And here out of this office, this was interdicted just days ago here in Illinois. And because these federal officers have been out on the streets picking up criminals and dangerous individuals, we were able to take this 20 kilograms of fentanyl off the streets and save over 10 million lives. They're also keeping these weapons out of the hands of criminals that would use it to rob and assault and to murder individuals in these communities. Unfortunately, all of the politicians that have spoken out against their efforts, their desire appears to be that they would like to have more of this on their streets. More drugs out there for their kids and families to be victimized. More guns out there committing crimes. That is not the work that we do in ICE. The work that we do is to protect people and make sure that we remove these weapons and drugs off of our streets and hold those criminals accountable who would go forward and continue to use that to harm individuals. I just want to ask you for three things today. Number one, I want to ask you to support your law enforcement officers. Have their backs. Every single individual that's out there that is noisy and attacking them right now is having an effect that's ratcheting up the rhetoric and distorting facts and not allowing the facts to get out of with the work that they're doing every day and what we've done to help victims get some justice for the harms that was perpetuated in their lives. Those of us that appreciate the work of our law enforcement officers, the fact that we're a country that doesn't pick winners and losers. We apply the law, and if we don't like the law, we should be going to Congress to change it. But that is what these law enforcement officers do, is they continue to uphold the law and make sure it applies equally to everybody. Second thing I'd like to ask you to do is stop putting criminals first. Stop making They've seen the ads, they've seen the messages on social media that if they go home on their own, they'll get the opportunity to come back to the United States the right way. And so most of these countries as well are setting up programs to welcome their individuals home. They have housing loan programs that they're setting up. They're allowing them to have food assistance for several months. Several of the countries I've recently visited with are training individuals and workers to come home because their economy has a need for those individuals. So sending that message has been extremely helpful in making sure that people know that here we're going to enforce our laws and that there's a right way to come to this country. And you're going to be allowed to do that if you voluntarily leave.
Do you have current comprehensive numbers, specific numbers?
We can get it for you, but each specific country has given it to us along the way.
Folks, just so you know, that box that we just popped up with that new feed there in the bottom right corner of the screen, we're keeping an eye on various feeds actually coming from the White House as President Donald Trump is expected to meet shortly with the leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan to sign a peace agreement. This is essentially going to establish a major transit corridor. It's going to be named the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity. That's according to the White House. So once again, we'll just leave that up for you. We'll watch it. If we start to see any activity or anyone coming to the camera to speak, we'll go there in full.
Have pending charges against them or criminal convictions. The others all have final removal orders, which means they're eligible to go back home.
Are for minor crimes. They're not violent crimes. And I'm just wondering, why are so many other people, besides the worst of the worst, getting swept up in this?
Nobody's getting swept up. We're running targeted enforcement operations across the country and using our case files and our information to know who is a criminal in this country that needs to be removed and who has a final removal order.
Well,
Nothing's changed. Huh?
What's wrong with that targeted net?
What's wrong with our targeting?
Yeah. Why are so many other people who are just here to work and they're following the law?
Well, they're not following the law if they're here illegally. There's a right way to come to this country.
Immigration
and so,
violators, yes, but they're following criminal laws. You're talking about criminals here.
Yes, I'm talking about criminals in these situations, absolutely. But we also have every situation where we have those that have final removal orders need to go home because their due process is over and they have their paperwork and they're ready to travel. So that has been the priority since the very beginning. Nothing has changed, and over 70% of these individuals that we have gone out and arrested and removed from the country have had those pending charges and criminal convictions against them. That has always been the goal of the president.
What is your policy specifically about identification and masks for ICE agents? Are they being told they do not have to identify themselves?
ICE is always wearing something that identifies them, who they are, and what operation they're out on. I would say that they wear masks at times to protect their identities from dangerous situations. The leadership teams, we leave that up to them to discern what's necessary in certain situations. And with the rise in violence that we continue to see against these officers, with that 1,000% increase, it's making sure that they are safe while they do this job and that they get home to their families at night too is incredibly important.
So it's your understanding they are identifying themselves?
Yes,
I've seen some cases where they're not wearing identification.
I would like to see that because they have identification, they have gone into situations, and when they have been out looking for these dangerous criminals and have been verbally identifying themselves, and if there is a mask required, it's for their safety because of the situation that they're encountering.
One more question. Secretary, you've mentioned that it's been harder to work with officials in Illinois because of the way the government functions, but you're also on a mission to hire thousands more ICE officers and detain folks who are in Illinois. So how are you doing that, hiring people within the state or people that are willing to work in the state, and where are those folks going?
Yeah, the response has been overwhelming. Part of the big, beautiful bill that President Trump advocated for allocated to us the resources to hire 10,000 new ICE officers. We have had that open for less than a week, and we have over 80,000 applicants for those jobs. So they're from all over the country. Some of them are retired ICE officers that want to come back now that they're going to be allowed to do their jobs. Some retired CBP or other federal officers. And then we also have a huge amount of interest of people who just want to have their backs and work alongside them. So what we're doing then is to get them trained up as soon as possible. We'll be training them through our federal academy, but we're also going to stand up some pilot areas of where people can train closer to their homes. If we have a lot of officers that have signed up and have offers from the federal government, we may do a training here closer to home so they're not away from their families for so long. So that's being worked out as we see where the final offers are coming from.
Do you know how long that training will last? Because normally it was taking about a year, so how would you get those folks on the street? Is it expedited?
Yeah, it'll be within weeks because we're going to give them credit for what they already know. If they're former law enforcement, they already have training and certifications that we will honor and look at. They'll still go through testing, they'll still go through drug testing and physical tests and all of that, but we want to make sure that it's an expedited, where we check the box if they have the experience, then it helps us not keep them stalled out in an academy for weeks at a time.
Secretary, I just wanted to ask how ICE operations have been impeded by sanctuary city policies, if they have, and do you feel like you're still on target to reach the amount of arrests that you would like in those sanctuary areas?
Well, the lack of information sharing is hard. I would say anybody who serves in law enforcement would say they're used to partners. They're used to being able to call up a local law enforcement officer, a sheriff, a highway patrol officer, and say, hey, do you have any information on this individual that is a murderer that's been cited in your city? That's not happening in Illinois. And when we're calling on those most dangerous individuals, when they're being released from your prisons, they're not even letting us know, not honoring our detainers. When we lodge a detainer against someone, it's when you let that person out of jail who's been paying the consequences, let us know so that we can pick them up and get them out of the country. Illinois is not partnering with us on that, which is very, very difficult when we know that those dangerous criminals are going to run free. And many times we go into situations where we don't necessarily have the law enforcement to play a backup role. There are times where we bring more individuals in, more federal officers, because we believe we need to do that for security reasons. So we have great partnerships across the country, over 800 of them, with state and local law enforcement. In other states, we wish we had that here. We wish we could build those partnerships. We're going to keep plugging away, and for us, it's about getting dangerous people off the streets. So our target is to get dangerous people off the streets. Last question back there.
Can you give us some clarity on what 18-year-old might do in ICE? Can they be DRO officers? And if so, do you have any concerns about that and how high stress that position is? And on the other end of age limits, why do you think someone in their 40s or 50s can do this job despite the previous age gaps as well?
Well, I think us opening up the age requirement is wonderful for people to have opportunities that they've always wanted. So many people were forced to retire from law enforcement at a young age because of that arbitrary deadline, and now they'll be able to come back and serve a few more years if they'd like to, provide for their families, and then help on the mission of making America safe again. 18-year-olds can come and sign up and help us with processing and paperwork while they train and they get the experience. They can walk alongside our officers. They will all be as fully trained as any full-time officer before they're put in a situation that might require more of them. So we want everybody to be at the same level of skill set and knowledge when they're out doing an enforcement role out on the job. Anything else?
Yeah, I don't expect you to know the details of every specific case, so I wanted to give you a little context that calls for a broader answer on the question. About 4 months ago, ICE publicized the arrest of 2 men said to be responsible for a mass shooting in Chicago. Your agency named them, and it got a lot of coverage. However, they have still not been charged in that mass shooting. So my question is whether it's people sent to prison in El Salvador or 2 men accused here in Chicago of a mass shooting, is it responsible for ICE to publicly accuse people of violent crimes before they've been charged?
Well, we follow cases and prosecute cases and turn them over for prosecution just like any other law enforcement agency does. So when we sweep up somebody who's committed an act of violence like that and turn it over, that is public information that is out there. And people need to know who is perpetuating these crimes, and we continue building cases then on who they're affiliated with. Is there further dangers? Our investigators are some of the best in the country that are out there making sure that not only is that person now incarcerated, but who were they affiliated with that could be another danger that we need to continue to look at. So
even if they haven't been officially charged?
I would say we follow the exact same process every federal agency does, every state agency does for law enforcement. So we have not changed our methods or how we handle cases or how we even communicate about them than we have since the very beginning, or how the Biden administration did, or the Obama administration. We do it exactly the same. What I wish is you guys would talk about the victims more. How many people were shot in that mass shooting? How many people were victimized? How are their families doing? You all spend so much time talking about the poor justice for these criminals that are harming individuals every single day, and you don't even think twice to go talk to a mom who's now lived for a year and a half without her daughter. Go talk to somebody and see how they're doing, trying to get their kids to school, not sure if they're safe. So I would encourage you to remember that there's always victims in these situations, and many times you're focusing on the one who made them a victim. Thank you. You guys have a good day.
All right, folks, we're turning now to, what do we got here?
We're going to the J.D. Vance in the UK.
All right. Thanks for sticking with us, folks, here on Live Impact News. Sorry, we're getting our videos in place. All right, let's go to J.D. Vance, the Vice President.
Well, Vice President Vance, welcome to Chevening.
It's great to be here.
Welcome to Kent at the beginning of your vacation here in the UK. I know that you will be spending some time in the wonderful Cotswolds and the glorious Scotland.
That's right.
But here in Kent, there are beautiful, beautiful coastal walks and beaches, castles, the home of Churchill, and this house has been sitting here since the 17th century. So welcome, we're delighted to have you. And in a sense, this is an indication of the long-standing bonds that exist between our two countries. I know that you personally have spent lots of time in the United Kingdom, and you know that I've spent lots of time in the US, and I'm very, very fond of the country. Our bilateral relations are in a wonderful place, having struck our economic prosperity deal and working hard on a new technology partnership, which will be very, very exciting indeed. Today, of course, we will be discussing the developing situation in the Middle East and in Gaza, which is of great concern, and of course the ongoing war in Ukraine and our desire to see that come to an end, and I'm sure we'll be reflecting on other issues of global interest and concern. But welcome to my home here in the wonderful county of Kent.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Well, thank you so much for having me, Mr. Foreign Secretary. It's good to see you all and good to see your team here. As you said, this is a very special relationship between our two countries, and I think me being here is just another part of that. So we've already, in the brief time that we've been here, my kids have fallen asleep on your floor. We've gone fishing in the lake outside, and unfortunately, the one strain on the special relationship is that all of my kids caught a fish, but the Foreign Secretary did not. I'm sorry. It is great to be here in Kent again. My wife and I love this section, this area of the UK. We actually were here a couple of years ago. We went to Dover and to the Cathedral of Canterbury. So we love this country. We certainly love this part of the country, and so it's great to be here. As David said, we have a lot to discuss. There's a lot going on in the world. Of course, the situation in the Middle East, the situation with Ukraine and Russia. There's a lot of news there and a lot of things to update each other on. I believe that we're going to talk about our economic partnerships, both in technology, but also the broader shared economic relationship that we have, and we're so thrilled about that. But just on a personal note, I have to say that I really have become a good friend, and David has become a good friend of mine, and so it's great to spend some time here with him and his family. On the trip over here, my 3-year-old daughter in particular kept on asking if she was going to get to hang out with Maya. The answer, happily, was yes, and you've been very, very gracious host to me and the whole family, so we're very grateful to that. And to the people of England, I really love this country, and in particular, having never been to this beautiful house before and seen the surrounding area, I just say that the people who built it, the people who sustained it, I think really love the human spirit, and being here lifts up the human spirit. And so I feel, from one vice president to the people of England, thank you for having such a beautiful place for foreigners like me to come and talk about the issues of the day, because we really appreciate it and we're really thrilled to be here. So to David and your team, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you catch a fish, sir?
I caught a few, actually. Yeah, I don't want to brag, but we did okay.
How you became such good friends?
Well, you know, David, I guess when you were in opposition, right, and I had just gotten elected to the United States Senate, obviously we come from sort of different political spectrums, but he was kind enough to make time on a visit to D.C. We got to know each other a little bit then and just kept on seeing each other, and our families enjoy each other's company very much, which always helps. But we care about this relationship, and we care about the fact that though we're separated by an ocean, and I guess as Churchill said, by a common language, that we have a lot in common, and there's a lot to do and a lot to work on together. You know, David once said to me, this is probably a couple of years ago, that there's this feeling that the world is in a state of incredible tension. And I certainly felt that a couple of years ago. I think that the President of the United States over the last 6-7 months has done a lot to lower that tension, but there's a lot that the United Kingdom and the United States can do, I think, to bring greater peace and greater stability to the world. And so we share that conviction, and that's made it easy for us to spend time together and work on the issues of the day.
Mr. Vice President, some big issues in the Middle East. What do you make of the UK's decision to recognise the state of Palestine? Do you think that's a bad decision?
Well, it's one of the things that we're going to talk about. Obviously, the United Kingdom is going to make its decision. We have no plans to recognize a Palestinian state. I don't know what it would mean to really recognize a Palestinian state, given the lack of a functional government there. You know, what the president has made very clear is our two goals are very simple right now vis-a-vis the situation in Israel and Gaza. Number one, we want to make it so that Hamas cannot attack innocent Israeli civilians ever again, and we think that has to come through the eradication of Hamas. Second, the president has been very moved by these terrible images of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, so we want to make sure that we solve that problem. I think all of us can work on how to solve that problem. Obviously, it's not an easy problem to solve, or it would have already been dealt with, but we share, I think, that focus and that goal. We may have some disagreements about how exactly to accomplish that goal, and we'll talk about that today.
Mr. Vice President, what do you make of President Trump's comments last week about you the likely front runner in the 2020 years?
I don't want to talk about lowly things like politics in this grand house. Come on. Look, I think my view on the politics of 2028 is I'm not really focused even on the election in 2026, much less 2 years after that. And if we do a good job for the American people, the politics will take care of itself. So I'm going to try to do a good job for the American people, just as David's trying to do a good job for the people of the UK.
Mr. Vice President, was the president given a heads up about Israel's intention to occupy Gaza City?
I'm not going to speak to private conversations between the Israeli government and our government. I think the president obviously has been very clear about his goals, about what he wants to accomplish in the Middle East, and he's going to keep on doing that. The president, as you know, speaks to these issues commonly. I'm sure that he'll talk at some point to the media about his response to what's happened or what was announced earlier today in Gaza. But our goals are very clear. We want to make it so that Hamas can't attack innocent people. We want to solve the humanitarian problems in Gaza. We're working incredibly hard, the president and the entire team, to make sure that happens. I mean, we've been in constant negotiations and conversations, even the last 24 hours, about how to get more aid into Gaza, about how to solve that humanitarian problem, and also how to get Hamas to a position where they can't continue to threaten the citizens and the civilians of Israel. So there's a lot of work to do there. There's a lot of common objectives here. There is some, I think, disagreement about how exactly to accomplish those common objectives. But look, it's a tough situation. Of course, we're not going to know exactly how to solve a very complicated problem. As the president has said himself, that people in some ways have been fighting for thousands of years. If it was easy to bring peace to that region of the world, it would have been done already.
Mr. Vice President, you've expressed some concerns in the past about free speech in the United Kingdom and Europe more broadly. Do you bring any kind of a message to the Foreign Secretary today on that subject?
Well, I'd say I've raised concerns about free speech in the United States of America. I think the entire collective West, the transatlantic relationship, our NATO allies, certainly the United States under the Biden administration, got a little too comfortable with censoring rather than engaging with a diverse array of opinions. So that's been my view. Obviously, I've raised some criticism and concerns about our friends on this side of the Atlantic. But the thing that I'd say to the people of England or to anybody else, to David, is many of the things that I worry most about were happening in the United States from 2020 to 2024. I just don't want other countries to follow us down what I think was a very dark path under the Biden administration. So in the spirit of having a good conversation, and recognizing the Secretary has a lot of things to do, unless you want to say anything else. Okay. Thank you all so much. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Can I just ask just one more question? Just one to the Foreign Secretary.
If it's the Foreign Secretary, yes. I'm done answering questions.
Foreign Secretary, the UK has taken a different tact on the situation in Palestine and the United States. Do you feel that your friendship with the Vice President might help, have a discussion about ceasefire in Gaza?
You know, Prime Minister Starmer is either meeting or discussing these issues with President Trump on a weekly basis, and I am doing the same with Secretary of State Rubio or Vice President Vance. And the truth is, what we all want to see is a ceasefire. What we all want to see are the hostages come out. And we are hugely concerned by the humanitarian suffering that we're seeing in Gaza particularly. So it is bringing that to an end that we want to see. I am concerned about what is developing in Gaza at this time and the recent decision by the cabinet, and hugely concerned, as I think a lot of Israeli people are, about the impact, particularly on the hostages, and we'll be able to discuss these issues in the hours ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Have you learned anything from each other?
We learned a lot. I learned a lot.
Absolutely. I learned a lot from him.
We enjoy the cut and thrust of politics.
Thank you.
The cut and thrust of politics is what excites me. And look, the truth is, I was blessed to go to Harvard. And I think the Vice President went to a university not quite as good.
That's right.
And so we enjoy that political debate and discussion particularly. But there are areas where there are actually joint concern. We both have a joint concern about outcomes for working people. That is the truth of it.
Absolutely.
And we have also discussed issues like irregular and illegal migration and how we deal with those issues. So there are commonalities and then there are differences. And that is the joy of living in democracies like ours.
Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
See you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Folks, right now we're turning to some breaking news just into the Live Impact News studio. We are just now learning from NASA that astronaut Jim Lovell, who of Apollo 13 fame, he was commander of that flight, has passed away. 97 years old. He was the first astronaut, in fact, to go to space 4 times. He was part of the Apollo 8 crew. He was the first to launch on the Saturn V rocket and the first to orbit the moon. So certainly a giant in this field, if you will. But once again, best known as commander of the near-tragic Apollo 13 mission to the moon. We're told that he died in Illinois and had many space flights of note. Statement released today, his family highlighted what they called his amazing life and career accomplishments and, quote, legendary leadership in pioneering human spaceflight. They went on to say, but to all of us, he was dad, granddad, and the leader of our family. Most importantly, he was our hero. We will miss his unshakable optimism, his sense of humor, and the way he made each of us feel we could do the impossible. He was truly one of a kind. Now, we mentioned that NASA has posted about this loss. They also just moments ago posted a tribute clip to him on their YouTube page. We want to bring some of that to you right now. And once again, this coming as breaking news here, the passing of Jim Lovell has been announced.
Space flight is so interesting. The rewards far overshadow the risks. That was my feeling.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
The reason for the mission was that the maximum time to go to the moon and back, and we're already planning for Apollo, was 2 weeks.
We're on our way, Frank.
So they said, well, if we could put people up into zero gravity for 2 weeks, they'll prove out one aspect of the moon flights. When 12 rolled around, they said, let's devote a lot of time on 12 to find out how we can really work outside the spacecraft to make sure that everything would work. And of course, on 12, Buzz completed 3 spacewalks, about 5.5 hours, I guess.
We have liftoff. Liftoff at 7:51 a.m.
We were so curious, so excited about being at the moon that we were like 3 school kids looking into a candy store window, watching those ancient old craters go by. When we determined that we would get and burn into the lunar orbit on Christmas Eve, we thought, boy, we ought to say something. What can we say?
And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day.
You know, with riots and assassinations and a war going on, I was part of a thing that finally gave an uplift to the American people. That's why I say Apollo 8 was really the high point of my space career.
Houston, we've had a problem.
We shut down everything we could when we had the explosion. They said, yeah, we got a lot of guys working on it down here. We'll help you out.
Stand by, 13, we're looking at it.
And that's when they started getting that teamwork together. That was the whole idea of NASA. New ideas. What can we do differently? Perseverance was predominant in the program at that time. Let's keep on trying.
So there you have it. That's a tribute video that NASA posted just moments ago on its YouTube page, honoring the legacy and the accomplishments of astronaut Jim Lovell. As we mentioned, breaking news here.
I look different. I played different.
Boxing is the wild west of sport.
This isn't a normal world.
Winning doesn't happen by accident. Winning becomes a lifestyle.
Volleyball here is a state treasure.
Representing Nebraska has meant everything to me.
You're the greatest defense ever to play the game.
We've given them an opportunity to dream.
We'll have much more throughout the day on this news, but we are, of course, seeing a lot of reaction come in the meantime. In fact, acting NASA Administrator Sean Duffy, who is also Secretary of Transportation, shared this statement upon the news of Lovell's passing. Quote, NASA sends its condolences to the family of Captain Jim Lovell, whose life and work inspired millions of people across decades. Jim's character and steadfast courage helped our nation reach the moon and turned a potential tragedy into a success from which we learned an enormous amount. We mourn his passing even as we celebrate his achievements. We'll pop back in, of course, as we get more developments or any new information to share on that front. Meantime, we are turning to an honoring of a different kind that actually impacted our area. Are we seeing some activity in the White House? Oh, that is from, okay. Sorry, we were watching two events happening at the White House. One, of course, today, which is getting underway shortly, the meeting with leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan. But yesterday at the White House as well, there was this honoring of several Purple Heart recipients, including a local gentleman from Statesville, John Galena. So let's take you back now to that ceremony and the other feed, as we mentioned, that we're watching, this peace signing. We'll get to that as soon as we see more activity.
Please. Nice crowd. I even hear a young, beautiful voice in the background, and that's good. That makes us all feel young. I want to thank everybody for being here on the 200th day in office. This is 200 days already. Time flies. But we have a country that's the hottest country right now anywhere in the world. A year ago, it was in a lot of trouble. It's the hottest country. And a lot of the people in this room made it that way. Perhaps the most successful and consequential first 200 days, they say, of an administration in history. So let's hope they keep saying it. There they are right there. I hope they keep saying it. But even more importantly, this is also National Purple Heart Day, and we're here to honor and celebrate the unyielding patriotism and grit and devotion to America's Purple Heart veterans. Is great emotion and great love. The Purple Heart dates back to August 7th, 1782. That's a long time, when General George Washington awarded a heart-shaped purple cloth to 3 soldiers for outstanding gallantry and service in battle. This afternoon, we're joined by dozens of Purple Heart recipients and their families, and just as General Washington did 243 years ago, today we give our everlasting thanks to you and your unbelievable families. We want to thank you very much for being here. It's my joy to have you. We're also joined by American patriots who love our military and our veterans, including Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. You're doing a great job, Pete. Thank you. We're working hard together. Secretary of Veterans Affairs with 92% approval rating, I hear. It's a record. Doug Collins. Thank you very much, Doug. The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. She's got a lot of interesting things happening in the last 2 months. A lot of interest. Keep it coming, Tulsi. Keep it coming. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, my friend, who I knew a long time ago. We got rid of ISIS in record time. They said it was going to take 4 to 5 years. He did it in 4 weeks. That's when I said, if I get into this again, I'm going to make him the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and that's what happened. Great job, and he did an incredible job in Iran. I want to thank you very much. Great job, General. Deputy Secretary of Energy and Purple Heart recipient, James Danley. James, thank you very much, James. Great job. And we have a Medal of Honor recipient, Captain Paris Davis. Thank you. Where are you? Where might he be? Oh, look at you. You're better looking than I am, I'll tell you that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're also joined by the Marine Corps veteran who co-managed my 2024 campaign, a fantastic talent in many ways after he was wounded in battle for our country in Operation Desert Storm, Chris LaCivetta. So where's Chris? Where is Chris? Chris, stand up, Chris. With your beautiful daughter. Victoria, thank you very much for being with your father. It's very nice. Every Purple Heart tells a story of courage, sacrifice, and purpose. It speaks of a price paid for the soldier beside you, the country behind you, and the generations of Americans yet to come. And we have some great generations to follow. It's going to happen. Those who wear this medal ran into bullets, faced ferocious bombs, and shed their blood on the field of battle. We will never forget what they did. We will always use them as an example of bravery and courage and strength. And we will also always think, when we look at them, of our great American flag.
All right, everybody, if you do want to learn more about this ceremony and the local recipient of the Purple Heart, we've got information on our website, WCNC.com, and on our mobile app, the WCNC Charlotte mobile app. With that, we want to turn to a live report that we have coming for us from Bank of America Stadium. As we've been talking about throughout the day, lots of fans getting excited for the first preseason game here between Panthers and Browns, and our Danielle Stein is getting us ready for this matchup and talking about all the storylines that we should be watching here tonight. So Danielle, start us off. How are things looking, and were you able to get any more intel on what's to come tonight?
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear the stadium music going right now, but it is about to go down for the first preseason game of 2025. People have a lot of hype around this Panthers team right now, evidenced by the music that you can hear. We're still a couple of hours away from kickoff, but there's a lot of anticipation for what this team could be delivering, as Bryce Young, again, getting another year under his belt, his third season in the NFL, as well as some continuity, of course, coming with the head coach Dave Canales and Dan Morgan in the front office. So those kinds of continuities where these guys have gelled year after year now, that's only going to help things really flourish. There's a lot of new faces as well that we're all really excited to see. In this preseason game is a great opportunity for this Panthers team to get their first taste playing against another opponent in the Cleveland Browns.
I think, of course, we're going to talk about the Browns in a second, but, one of the things that we've heard y'all prepping us for, the fact that we will be seeing Bryce Young, in fact, for this game. We know that we didn't get to see him for a bit when preseason kicked off last year.
Right, yeah. So in contrast, last year, we didn't see him step on the field until the third game. So Dave, I think, kind of learned from that. And Bryce himself likes the idea of starting this one off early. He said, I like to get my feet wet, my feet under me, and it still helps to kind of set the tone for the rest of the team. We're obviously not going to be expecting to see much of them. Dave did say, if we can get a good drive from them, as long as it's not like a 3-and-out, get some good time for them to sort of gel on the field, then it'll be good. We want them to be out there, but obviously not too long. It is preseason. We will know that Bryce will be starting, and we can expect a lot of the starters that we can expect who will be starters in this depth chart on the field as this kicks off at 7.
Now, okay, so we put a pin in the Browns. We're going to come back to that because obviously there's, and I don't want to use, the word spectacle, but there's kind of a bit of a spectacle and a bit of a circus around the fact that Shedeur Sanders is also going to be starting. And so, it seems like everywhere he goes, there is always conversation. There's a lot of interest. Folks just want to know. So how do you think that's going to play into this matchup tonight? And I'll just kind of add this into the mix as well. I went and, did a walk around Uptown earlier today just because I like to people watch and just see who's always around. I saw a lot of Browns fans checking into hotels today.
As did I. I saw quite a few jerseys as I was driving up to the bank earlier too. But it's true. You can just say the word we all want to say. Their quarterback room is a mess right now. There were 5 about a week ago, and now there's 6 quarterbacks on their roster. Actually, only 2 of them are healthy enough that they would be listed as active tonight, with the newest addition of Tyler Huntley actually coming in after just not being in this team a couple weeks ago. Of course, guys like Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, who right now is listed as number 1 on that depth chart, Kenny Pickett, as well as another rookie that they drafted even ahead of Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. So yeah, this room is crowded. They're gonna need that room to weed out. Right now, Shedeur is actually listed as the number 4 quarterback on the Browns depth chart. So I think this team really wants to see what Shedeur is able to do in a big moment like this. Of course, he's delivered in big moments throughout his college career at Colorado. Bryce is someone who knows what it's like to deliver in college, being a former Heisman winner himself. But for Shedeur's case, this is all about getting those reps in a real game situation. Joe Flacco even commenting on it, saying, I can't wait to be watching how this unfolds from the side.
Now, the other element that we know a lot of folks will be watching, this will be on the Panthers side, of course, but the fact that, the defense has a lot to show, to prove, to come back from. I mean, we were talking about how it was kind of, I guess, historically bad, if you will, last season. So how is it looking on that front? And what do you think the expectations, will be for fans watching tonight on that front?
Yeah, this defense definitely seems like they took a step in the right direction this offseason. First of all, going back to the draft, they got 4 defensive pieces, including 2 edge rushers in Nick Scorton and Princely Umanmielen, as well as someone on the secondary, Lathan Ransom. These guys are young, excited, and they are hungry. I talked to Lathan earlier this week, actually, and he's someone who's really described as that physical force who loves to be out there and really go hit it hard against other teams. So yeah, he's excited, for example, to be going up against not his own teammates as he'll be facing the Browns tonight. So for a lot of these guys, getting these first reps is going to be huge for them tonight as they're just beginning their NFL careers.
Now, I personally feel like it's entirely too soon for this, but I feel like it is worth mentioning for folks who like to, I guess, get a little excited, maybe into the weeds a bit. I am seeing Carolina is a betting favorite in this matchup by about 6 points. Once again, people can bet on everything and they will bet on anything. Clearly, I'm seeing what's out there, but I think that's interesting. And so take that for what you will, folks.
It's interesting. We will know at the end of the day, this is preseason. We know that both sides will not be putting out their game-ready rosters that we could anticipate if it were a Week 1 matchup. But we do know one thing, in that a lot of reports actually were saying that it was the Panthers who won the day at that joint practice just a couple days ago on Wednesday when they were going up against the Browns. So hey, maybe the Browns are in a little bit of trouble with what's going on in their quarterback situation as they're trying to feel that out. Of course, everything does start through that player under center. So as they are still kind of navigating it, we will see if the Panthers are able to capitalize.
Now, before we wrap things up, I always like to check in to see what sort of, stories you'll be bringing to us throughout the evening. I know y'all have been working hard on getting us, some great and varied reports really from training camp up until this point. So tonight here on WCNC Plus, as folks look for live reports from y'all, what will you be bringing? Anything interesting in particular that you think you have for us coming up?
Yeah, we got a lot of hits coming up in the next couple of hours. We're going to be looking a little bit more into that relationship between Bryce Young and his newest offensive weapon, and Tetaroa McMillan. T-Mac, of course, is someone who Bryce kind of identified during the draft process as someone who he really wanted to work with. Going back to that Cali connection, we're going to look more into that later. And then around 5:50, we're going to be welcoming on Julian Council of Locked On Panthers. He's going to be coming live with me here, and we're going to break down what we can expect out of this matchup later tonight.
All right. Fantastic. Danielle Stein, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Impact News. And of course, we look forward to seeing your reports here on WCNC Plus as we turn it over to the evening newscasts. All right, let's turn the page, folks. Of course, we'll check in with Danielle on the evening news in just a little bit. We've got a couple of stories that we are following. We were cutting off kind of in the middle there that Purple Heart ceremony over at the White House from last night, where we mentioned there was a local recipient honored. We want to get back to that if we can and hear a few more remarks from the president.
Yes, it's going to be beautiful. And just last week, I signed the VA Home Loan Program Reform Act, a big deal to help ensure no veteran is kicked out of their home for a late payment. If you're a little bit late, don't worry about it. And frankly, if you're a lot late, you don't have to worry about it either. You just get it in when you can. Get it in when you can. And America's veterans have done their duty for us, and under the Trump administration, we are doing our duty for you, okay? That's the way it's supposed to be. One of our brave soldiers with us today is Army Veteran Specialist Kevin Jensen. In 2008, Specialist Jensen was a gunner in a Humvee racing to support a platoon ambushed by the Taliban in Afghanistan. His vehicle was hit by a roadside bomb, flew 10 feet. He flew 10 feet up into the air and exploded in flames. The whole place was in flames, including, unfortunately, Kevin. But he suffered deep third-degree burns, and all over his body he was in trouble, big trouble. Despite the agony, he selflessly ran to the aid of his platoon leader, who was engulfed, or just absolutely, everyone thought he was gone. He was engulfed in fire. "Sir, I've got you, sir," Kevin shouted and pulled his friend to safety. Specialist Jensen earned the Purple Heart, and he's here today with the platoon leader whose life he saved, and our newly sworn-in VA Undersecretary for Medical Affairs, Captain Sam Brown. Kevin and Sam, please stand, and I know Sam very well. Sam is great. What a combination. He's okay, right? Great, Sam. Look good. Thank you very much. You did a great thing, because I got to know him and his really beautiful wife. You know, you're not allowed to say beautiful anymore. It's political suicide, they say. But I'll say it anyway. And the most beautiful family you've ever seen. And I just want to thank you for having done, and you for your great bravery. It's really great. Thank you both for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you. Also with us is 24-year Army veteran Brian Willett. In 2010, Staff Sergeant Willett was conducting a resupply mission in Afghanistan when his vehicle was struck by a roadside bomb. You know who did the roadside bomb, right? Soleimani. Where is he? Where is Soleimani? He was the father of the roadside bomb. They say 92% of the people who got either killed or badly hurt, it was Soleimani. He was the one that did it more than anybody else by far.
Folks, we're actually going to pivot away from this because A, we've got some breaking news, and B, that bilateral talks feed has actually picked up with the president. Quickly, just learned here that the president has removed the IRS chief. He's temporarily replaced him with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. We'll have more on that to come. But as we mentioned, Armenia, Azerbaijan represented here at this peace agreement signing, and this is going to create essentially what is going to be called the Trump route for international peace and prosperity. It's going to be a major transit corridor. We're going to listen to this in full. Of course, we're going to get cut off because we're about to turn over to the news at 4. You can find the rest of this announcement over on our secondary streaming channel here on WCNC Plus.
European Union, the Russians worked very hard on it, never happened. Sleepy Joe Biden tried, but you know what happened there? He tried for probably 12 minutes and didn't work out. And many other countries tried, and they were unsuccessful. But with this accord, we've and many other countries tried, and they were unsuccessful. But with this accord, we've finally succeeded in making peace, and we just left the Oval Office where we signed voluminous documents and very important elements to the agreement. The country of Armenia and Azerbaijan are